President. Hello, this is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. We see them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. They're telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wayne, see me.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Red Wayne.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
Wayne, see me. Wayne, see me. Red Wayne, see me.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. So glad to be with you tonight. I hope you're having a great day. Tonight we're going to shake you to the core a bit. Oh, we don't anger you at all. I mean, wouldn't want to do that. Not at all, actually. Trying to do our best to bring to you information that's not necessarily heard on the radio or anywhere else for that matter. You know, and last night as we were listening back to the shows and understanding some of the fun and interesting things we did in the first days of Ground Zero, I thought maybe it was time to do some reflecting, maybe do some reminiscing about what I'm doing and how I'm doing and what it is I need to do more of. And as I was reflecting on the 20 years of broadcasting on this program, broadcasting Ground Zero, every conspiracy theory that makes up the 70 or so well-known conspiracies, I'm wondering, do you remember that book, The 70 Greatest Conspiracies of All Time? I wonder if it's increased. Because when I bought it, it was 60. And then it went up to 70, and then maybe it's up to 80 or 90. Who knows? But, every conspiracy theory that makes up to 70 or so well-known conspiracies has been on the show. Even some you probably never heard of. Open conspiracies, not-so-secret conspiracies have been talked about on this program. And we talked about the paranormal. We talked about the supernatural. We talked about 14 views that have always been spoken of on the air here on this program. Entertaining all ideas, strange ideas. We've had people calling us up, telling us we're all wrong for how we think or what we're presenting because the Bible says that it's not right. Hell, the Bible says everything's not right. In fact, there's a lot of things that aren't right with the Bible. Sometimes. Conspiracy theories. All of the conspiracy theories. All of the craziness. All the weird stuff that people say, come on. Just a conspiracy. Clyde, if it was a conspiracy, people would be in on the conspiracy. We'd be hearing it from the mainstream media. The hell you'd hear it from the mainstream media. They don't have time to sit and discuss what we discuss on this program. And I've been neglectful in my 20 years of broadcasting on this program. I've been neglectful of the granddaddy of all conspiracies. And I learned that a couple weeks ago when I had a few Ground Zero listeners writing me and telling me that they thought that the granddaddy of all conspiracies would be the greatest topic ever for me to handle and for me to cover. And I'd write back and say, are you kidding me? I wouldn't dare cover this conspiracy. Why would I do this? It's insanity. You don't want to go to a conspiracy theory that goes against everything you believe, everything your normalcy bias tells you. The granddaddy of all conspiracy theories. This conspiracy theory is probably the one that would get the most mocking, probably more so than the The moon landing stories I've did, about 1969 moon landings being a hoax, which got me into a lot of trouble, and it got me a lot of publicity with people I didn't even want to talk to. Namely, the bad astronomer. That's one guy I want to stay clear of. I love the guy. I read his column all the time. The minute I said the moon landings were faked, I was his worst enemy. Then he went and hooked up with the amazing Randy. I'm thinking, yep, you just go ahead and hang out with those bozo, the clowns. That's fine. They don't talk about anything except the tight, rigid views that they all hold together as, quote, scientists. Him and Bill Nye, the science guy. What does that guy know? He's just some high school teacher that decided he was a science guy. I don't know about that. And I'm not going to get too critical of science, because what I'm going to talk about tonight is just going to go against everything that you believe in science. And it's not because I'm believing it, it's because I'll tell you what's going on here. I am so surprised that this is even catching on again. And we're living in the 21st century, my friends, and I don't know why. It's beginning to catch on. Maybe I'll find out when our guest comes on later, but I'm just saying. The conspiracy theory I want to talk about tonight is the idea that the earth we live in, or the earth we live on, is flat. Now, we've been taught that the height of stupidity and naivete is when our ignorant ancestors believed the earth was flat. That if any man somehow still thinks the earth to be the immovable center of the universe, that they must be the most primitive kind of moron and ass clown that ever existed on the face of the planet. Here's your hat and the keys to the USS Douche Canoe, my friend. You have now earned your sign of stupidity. Nowadays, the label flat earther has become literally synonymous with moron, idiot, tinfoil hatter. I don't know. I mean, a lot of cliches, a lot of derogatory cliches out there for people who even believe in conspiracy theories. The granddaddy of conspiracy theories, of course, is the flat earth conspiracy. You may think it's insulting someone's intelligence to even explore this great and wondrous conspiracy theory, but why on earth would people in the 21st century even believe? Who would read the book, The Flat Earth Conspiracy? Your ingrained instinct would be to laugh and mock the messenger and deny the very possibility that the earth is flat. If the greatest secret is that our earth is flat, then this means Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, and Newton, along with their modern Masonic astronaut counterparts, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, hand in hand with NASA and World Freemasonry, have pulled the greatest hoax of all time. A hoax that's lasted for a good 500, 600 years. They have propagated the most phenomenal lie ever and perpetuated the most complete indoctrination in history. We know everything from books, magazines, and television to computer-generated imaging that this multi-generational conspiracy has succeeded. If it's such a conspiracy, I don't know. Because in the minds of the masses, the fixed earth is shaped like a perfect sphere and looks just like the globe we used to have in grade school. No doubt, that's the earth. The idea of a sphere, the sphere earth, actually goes back to Pythagoras. Isidore of Seville, between 615 and 630 AD, said that he believes the earth is a sphere. Depending on what part of the Bible you read, the earth is flat or it's a sphere. Isaiah, it's a sphere. In Genesis, flat. Isidore, of course, of Seville, said that he believed the earth was on an axis, a straight line from the north that extends through the center of the ball of the sphere called the axis mundi. Because all around the sphere, it turns around the wheel like an axle, and the axis mundi is the pole that holds the sky from the flat surface of the planet. Contradiction, but still, the planet is round, and it travels about the sun, traveling through the Milky Way, according to Isidore of Seville. I was telling you that in the Bible, in some places, I think in Isaiah it talks about the circle of the earth, but in the first parts of the Bible, it appeared to the prophets that the earth was flat, and above it was a firmament or dome. Very early Egyptian and Middle Eastern civilizations also portrayed the earth as flat land suspended in an ocean and with a roof of some kind over it, a dome over it. as particularly reflected in some of the prose that's made its way into the Bible and has been used to justify a lot of the flat earth today, flat earth beliefs. Book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. See, in that scripture, that describes a fixed, flat earth around which the sun, moon, and stars revolve, separating water from water, the waters above and the waters below the planet. So what goes in between? Well, the flat earth, that's what goes in between. Bible also talks about a great deception that Satan would enact in the final days, which would result in people increasingly abandoning God and the Bible, a hoax that would deceive the very elect. A hoax. I wonder what a hoax that'd be, that perhaps the earth is not flat, or that it's not round, or something else. I know a lot of armchair biblical readers will tell you that the great deception is the announcement of extraterrestrials. But there are others that say the deception is very much terrestrial, that it's the great hoax has been the earth is not what appears to be. It's something different. Ancient Chinese astronomy makes no mention of any roundness of the earth. Indeed, some depictions say that it's square. Can you imagine a cubed earth? Sort of like, what's it, the city of Jerusalem? That's cubed, is it not? And the Borg, they live on a cubed vessel that looks like a planet. Can you imagine the earth being this big cube? It's flat on every surface, but then that would explain the four corners of the earth spoken of in the Bible now, wouldn't it? I guess they just speculated back then. Either we're on a circle or a sphere, or there's a firmament separating the water from the water, or we're holding up the four corners of the earth here. Don't screw up here. So I just, I find it interesting that there have been many Ground Zero listeners who have wanted to hear me talk about the flat earth conspiracy. And we had a lot of planning meetings. I said, let's do it for April Fool's Day. I said, let's do it for April Fool's. Well, one day after April Fool's Day won't hurt. I go, okay, it won't. Because we had the 20th anniversary, last night. So I'm thinking, okay, for 20 years I have not talked about this, so I'm going to talk about it. We debated about it before we decided to do it. I said, okay, I'm going to be the messenger instead of the believer, and the process here is for me to expand your mind to a new way of understanding why the flat earth beliefs are starting to gain ground again, because I don't understand why. And I have a feeling that there are some things out there that are turning people's minds into thinking that, yes, Virginia, the earth is flat. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
Business as usual in the apocalypse. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
I don't know, from ideas of Pangea, one common language spoken of in Genesis, tower reaching to the heavens, all these things have been on my mind. And, of course, you go through your Bible, and it's in the book of Isaiah, they say that the earth was round. That's interesting. But then, of course, later it says that there are four corners in the earth, four corners of the earth. It says so in Revelation. It says so, in Job, it talks about the ends, like the earth has an end to it, the end of the earth. Genesis talks about the separation of the water from the water and the land in the middle, giving it the idea that, it's all about interpretation, and it's all about whether or not, people saw the planet is flat. I mean, there are a lot of ideas that are even, like I said, Chinese history, they talked about it as well. Ancient Chinese history said that the world was square. So, it's interesting to learn that in the 21st century, there are many people who are willing to go against some hundreds of years of normalcy bias and say that the earth is flat. And the truth is that we have taken for granted that what we first learned from Copernicus was all true, even though Martin Luther and even Calvin used the Bible to try and ward off such cosmic blasphemy. At least then it was cosmic blasphemy. But what it was basically Martin Luther and Calvin fighting and defending their views upon whether or not the Earth was round or flat. We know, all the books and magazines, television shows. I mean, we just look and we say to ourselves, "Well, yeah, it's round. It's round." Okay, and I'm not gonna step on anybody's normalcy bias, but I was just curious as to why there were so many Ground Zero listeners who wanted to hear the flat Earth conspiracy, and I said, well, okay, we may do this. We're going to talk about it. We can find somebody who can articulate how it goes, So anyway, let's go to a call. We already have somebody calling in. Hey, Mike, you're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde, how you doing?
Good.
So I just started reading the Bible, and I look at it, I'm trying to read it as what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't even got out of chapter 1, and I'm arguing with people, and I really don't understand where you see the Earth as being flat.
When the Earth is separated, when they separate the water from the water and the land between the waters, the firmament between the land between the firmament, that means that there's a flat land, water on top, water on the bottom. We separate the water from above, and we separate the water from below, and we put it in front of the land or surrounding the land to keep it from, and so literally that's a flat land with water on top and water on bottom of it.
Now, all right, I just, I'm not arguing with you. I just don't, I just read stuff for what it is. And
well, I mean, in Isaiah, they said something, I can't remember where in Isaiah, but they say something about how the Earth is round or the circular Earth or something. And then, of course, they talk about the four corners of the Earth, or they talk about the ends of the Earth as if it were flat. Now, I'm wondering if it's just, I wonder if that's just poetic parlance for look at the map of the Earth and there are four corners of it, or whether or not we're on a turtle on pillars going, forever like they used to think. I don't know. It's just a strange concept.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing with you, but
no.
I read the Bible, and I've got people arguing with me because of the way I interpret it. And
well, you can interpret it the way you want to, Mike. That's how it is. That's what it's for, right?
Exactly
whatever
what I think,
whatever gives you the spirit, whatever gives you the spirit. That's all I care about.
So I was just curious how you were looking at it, because I look at it obviously a different way than everybody else, and so I was just curious as to how you were coming up with that. And
well, it's just the idea of the firmament. It was always in the direct translation that it meant that there was earth, there was water above it, and there was water below it. And God found a way to take the water above and the water below and have it meet, and then separate the earth from the waters. And so it was then interpreted at the time that probably Moses or whoever wrote the book, or those prophets who contributed or tried to contribute to the first, couple books of the Bible, just interpreted as, well, God made a flat earth, or he made an earth that was flat for us to walk on rather than a globe. And I think maybe as time grew, just like with everything else, the mind opened and the science had, changed things. And also, of course, astrology helped in matters, because they looked up in the heavens and they saw what appeared to be round stars or fiery stones, or, and even Enoch had talked about being above and looking down at the planet. So if you explore, you find many interpretations and many ways of explaining it. But, it's just interesting that, we take for granted the normalcy bias of the Earth being round when maybe it very well could be flat. I don't know. But, Mike, thank you for your call.
All right. Thanks, Clyde. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Now, here's some things I want to point out to you. The flat Earth idea. I never would have considered the flat Earth report, or even talking about anybody of flat Earth. I was doing this investigation into this Lufthansa German wings flight crash, and I uncovered some things that really blew my mind. I want to share them with you, because I found out that the Earth really isn't round. And it's not pear-shaped. It's not oblong. It kind of looks like a flat wad of chewing gum. Really. We'll talk about that coming up. 888-673-3700. We'll be back with more. Keep it right here on Ground Zero.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Because the globes that you buy, that you rub your fingers over and you feel the Himalayas and you feel the Rocky Mountains, These mountains are puny compared to the size of the Earth. You would not know they were there. If you were truly that size, some big cosmic giant lumbering through space, coming upon the Earth, rubbing your hand on it, the depth of the fingerprint mark, the depth of that would be greater than the entire range of distance from the Marianas Trench in the bottom of the Pacific to the top of Mount Everest. Therefore, you would close your eyes, rub your finger, you would not know whether you are on ocean, valley, mountain, or hill. So we've been fed this misrepresentation of our own planet on the belief that, in fact, we have real surface features. But cosmically speaking, we're practically a perfect sphere.
Or so we've been told.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. We've been lied to about the shape of our planet. Whether you believe it's flat, oblate, or geoid, tonight's the night to talk about it. It's kind of bizarre, but yeah. See, what really set this off, back when this Lufthansa Germanwing Airbus crashed, I was doing some investigating into the topographical area of the Alps. And it gave me pause to reopen the case of geomagnetic conductive crust theories about mountain ranges like the Alps, the Andes, and the Himalayas. Now, GOES satellite imagery and geosat mapping started to make the case for a bulge or an anomaly in areas of the planet that are prone seismically to gravimetric waves. The waves are rare and create magnetic waves above the Earth and waves that can generate earthquakes or other anomalous activities. It's all based on available seismic and gravimetric and geologic data from many years ago. And it's quite probable that gravimetric distortions and distortion waves are possible over many of these mountain ranges that have electromagnetic conductive crust. In fact, there was a study when I lived in Utah about the eastern-western Uinta Basin and how, since it is very prone to UFO activity, it's very prone to all kinds of earthquake activity and strange activity, Bigfoot sightings and everything else, that there's probably some sort of electromagnetic conductive crust there that is somehow igniting or at least playing hob with the crystalline structures of what is under the crust. That happens at volcanoes, too. There's a place here in the Northwest called ECETI. James Gilliland runs the ranch. It's a UFO ranch near Mount Adams. You go there, and you're guaranteed a UFO show, always. I've been there. Every time I've been there, I've counted up to 9, 10, or 11 UFOs that I've seen unexplained, and also I've seen UFOs leave these mountains through a doorway. And so, you know, with all of this conductive crust idea and the idea of the geometric changes and the gravimetric waves and all this, I was curious to see if CERN had any effect on these areas near the Alps because it was conducting its experiments. And it got out of hand because I was saying, I had inferred, don't even know if I was really saying it outright. I don't think I did. I didn't say it outright at all. I didn't say that CERN caused the crash of this aircraft that, they said they had a suicidal pilot was reported the cause of the Airbus crash. There was a report, though, that there was a huge positive charge underground detected some 300 miles away from CERN in a place called Locarno, and that there were tremors and booms that were heard in the region where the plane went down. Now, yesterday, on April Fool's Day, 3 people were killed and about 7 others remain unaccounted for after an avalanche was triggered by a small tremor. Came down right in the same area where this plane crashed. Coincidence? I don't know. Well, the question I'm sure you're wondering is, what the hell does that have to do with Flat Earth, Clyde? Well, I'll get to that. It doesn't really have anything directly connected to it. But the gravity field and the steady-state ocean circulation explorer, the GOES satellite, that was launched into space in 2009, goes pole to pole at an altitude of just about 254.9 kilometers. It's the lowest orbit of any research satellite in operation today. But the satellite is not proving anything about Flat Earth, but it does show something else. And it was talked about in this montage just earlier. The satellite maps the almost imperceptible differences in the pull exerted by the mass of the planet from one place to the next, from great mountain ranges to the deepest ocean trenches. And it creates a map of the planet. However, the Earth is not very flattering. It doesn't, you can say that it's oblate, and they've said that it's oblate, but what I'm seeing with these maps that are being produced by the GOSI satellite is that the Earth is more or less not necessarily flat, not necessarily oblate, but it's a geoid shape. Now, that's a new word for me, so I looked up what geoid is. Geoid actually is a shape that is bumpy or otherwise imperfect. If you look at the Earth through this mapping of it from the satellite and how the satellite views the planet, it actually looks like a distorted, flattened basketball. The Earth still looks spherical, but with a few bulges and flat areas that make our rounder look more like the shape of a water-chewed piece of bubble gum, rolled in perfectly, kind of like a ball of pizza dough. So what happens if you take a ball of pizza dough in your hands and you begin spinning in the air? Well, the dough spins and makes circles and such centrifugal forces that tug at both sides of the dough, making it a perfectly round, beautiful sphere so you can put cheese and stuff all over it. That causes it to become flatter and flatter and flatter. It appears flat, sides of the ball pushing further out until you have this flat disc rather than a ball. Now, this is, in my opinion, the only possible foot a flat earth believer has to stand on, is that the illusion of the spinning of this geoid, creating the illusion that the geoid is a perfect sphere, when in reality it's not. It's kind of like a big wad of bubble gum or a big ball of pizza dough, spinning and spinning and spinning, giving us the illusion that the Earth is perfectly round. The further out we go, the more round it looks. So we assume the Earth is round because of distance and overall appearance. Speed, orbit, along with a lack of distance, pictures could give the impression that the world is flat. But you heard Tyson on that, speaking on that montage, saying it's oblate, that we wouldn't feel those differences, the topographic differences. He said that wouldn't happen. But other people argue that, well, maps sense those topographic differences. They affect the overall shape of the Earth. They push out, they push in from the lowest place to the surface of the Earth. Like we have as he spoke of, the Mariana Trench, Mount Everest, the highest mountain peak on our planet. There's a sizable difference in height and depth. So we have the Mariana Trench, which is, well, it's the bottom of the ocean. It's about 35,810 feet below the sea level. And then we have Mount Everest. It's 29,028 feet above sea level. So this is a difference of about, give or take, 65, 70,000 feet. 12 miles. Okay, so you see a distance of 12 miles. That's nothing cosmically. We know this. But to a satellite that's mapping the planet, it's a big difference. To those globes we've had in school that have the bumps where the Rocky Mountains are, the bumps where the Andes are, and where all the other mountain ranges are, yeah, they say that's a big lie. You wouldn't be able to feel that. But they gave you that so you could have some sort of topographical way of looking at the planet as not just a flat surface, but a surface that had bumps and dips. And so GOSI satellite is also giving us those impressions that, no, the Earth is not round, but if we were to literally map it by its ups and downs and backs and forths, we would look like a big old ball, or actually a flattened basketball. And if you were to touch the Earth, it would feel like a basketball, I guess. That's the theory the scientists are saying. So a lot of scientists love to explain something simple with a needlessly complicated theory. And in this case, they have unwittingly fallen into a possible position to open the door for a resurrection of what can be called the age-old conspiracy of flat Earth. And while there've always been and likely will continue to be people who steadfastly maintain that the Earth is flat, this is clearly eccentric. It's extreme. And yet the most common representations of the Earth are flat. Maps. Thousands of years of effort have been put into the flat representations of Earth. And many of the techniques used are highly sophisticated and still are still being used today to try and figure out the Earth. Flat. Not round, flat. And that's what's interesting about this whole thing. And so far, we've made the simplifying assumption that the Earth is a perfect sphere, and looking at the many bumps and hills, as I said before, with a geoid, this is not the case, and the topographical map roughly describes these. Clearly, we certainly can't accurately model everything, every minor bump and every pocket, but of course the GOSI satellite is making an attempt to, and is monitoring the electric currents that are going through these plates that are under the planet right now. And the planet is changing far too rapidly to pinpoint it into any direction, whether it be oblate, fat, skinny, thin, elliptical, whatever you want to say. It's like the picture that they took off the moon or from the moon probably now can be challenged. If someone could get the right kind of equipment to go farther out, they could probably get a picture that would show the planet in a different way. Satellites are showing the planet in a different way now. We don't even know it. And we have made the simplifying assumption that the Earth is this sphere. But do we really know if we're beginning to see changes? I believe there's a halfway point that needs to be explored. I mean, this geoid halfway point, which is a theoretical construct defined as a surface of equal gravitational potential. And if we ignore other forces, bodies of water, well, they'll still flow. Its surface is equal to gravitational potential. All we're doing is we're trying to figure out why flat Earth is getting a foothold anymore. Because here we are in the 21st century, and we have many theories and many ideas of how the Earth truly is. In fact, there's even a theory that's gaining ground, too, about the Earth growing. That the sphere of the planet was much smaller during the time of the dinosaurs. Which would explain why Tyrannosaurus Rex, a dinosaur with a head as big as a Volkswagen, didn't break its back because the gravity was different on the planet at that time. So for some reason, the Earth sciences are changing. People are looking at the magnetic fields changing. Everything about our existence on this planet is changing. And now the flat earthers are stepping forward and they're saying, hey, let's bring up the controversy again because we have some really solid things to explain to you all about flat Earth. And I saw the geoid and I said, let's have at it because the geoid is showing the planet looking like some flattened basketball. So, I mean, when you're looking at irregular structures, you cannot have any concise mathematical descriptions for, you take these measurements, you look at approximations, you see, and I'm no scientist, and I'm no geologist, but we can blame the geologists for giving us kind of and I hate to say this, a half-assed view of the Earth, because that's exactly how it is. And so it opens the door for the resurrection of flat Earth theories or flat Earth facts, if you want to call it that. I mean, if you look at the Earth in another way, it all looks like ellipsoidal models that are basically imperfect circles within circles. And when you look at the equator is the perfect circle. The rest of it is all a mess. The rest of it that no one can figure out. No one can figure out why we're having these ups and downs, gravity pulls. In fact, I was reading something the other day that the gravity is different on different parts of the planet. You can go to the North Pole and have different gravity, or you can be on in a building and have different gravity. And I never would have thought of gravity. I went to a therapy session the other day, a physical therapy session to get better so I can be healthy for you guys, because you guys in your prayers have made me want to just go out and do more. So I go into my pool, my pool for therapy. It's salt pool. All of it is the buoyancy. It's like being on the moon. I get out of it. I felt gravity. I thought, oh my gosh, that's a lot of pull from good old planet Earth. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
You say flat Earth, everybody's going to call you and tell you you're crazy. But lately, I've been looking at geoidal stuff and saying, yeah, it's pretty bizarre. The oblate theories of planet Earth being oblate. The elliptical circles within circles, the perfect equator. Just the idea that if you look at geoidal mapping of the Earth, it looks like a big wad of chewing gum. And it's just, it's funny because it just looks like the planet's been, kicked around or beaten up. Jonathan in Pennsylvania, you're on Ground Zero.
Yes. Hello, Clyde. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good. I want to connect two things for you, if I can. I'm actually a pastor who is a ancient linguistic guy,
okay,
and I'm also a big science buff.
All right.
The word tehom in Hebrew basically means waters above the earth and waters below the earth. And if you look at biblical genealogies before the flood and after the flood, before the flood, they lived like Methuselah 969 years. And after the flood, they were down to about 100 to 200 years.
Yeah.
Because the word Tehom means waters above the earth and waters below the earth. And at the point of the flood, in order to have a truly global flood, we were still Pangea, the monocontinent.
I don't believe we were Pangea. You have to look. You have to look at ancient Sanskrit to know that we weren't Pangea at that time.
Right, but if all the land masses were together, it is easy to understand how all the land mass could be covered with water.
But they weren't together at that time. If you look at history and the time the flood was supposed to happen, you know that's when the ancients were writing. They were writing, what they were writing about the earth at the time, and there were civilizations that were writing about the earth even during the flood. You said that you know about these ancient histories, so let's talk about the ancient histories of you look at the ancient histories of the Sumerians, and you look at Sanskrit. You look at all these writings from that time period. That means that the entire earth was not flooded. You there, Jonathan? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I wanted to discuss this. I guess he didn't want to discuss it. I guess maybe that floored him. No, I mean, we've had this argument before about the whole earth being flooded. I don't think the whole earth was flooded, because if that's the case, then we never would have received any of the ancient Sumerian writings, no Sanskrit writing, no ancient Sanskrit writing, no Upanishads, no nothing. That wouldn't happen unless you believe that's all fake. Just like the earth being flat or round or moon landings or whatever. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back with more. Keep it right here on Ground Zero. Don't go away.
News 101 KXL.
Spinning complacently in the darkness, covered and blinded by a blanket of little lives, false security has lulled the madness of this world into a slumber. Wake up. An eye is upon you, staring straight down and keenly through, seeing all that you are and everything that you can never be. Yes, an eye is upon you, an eye ready to blink. So face forward, with arms wide open and mind reeling. Your future has arrived. Are you ready to go?
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Sammy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
Wait, Sammy. Wait, Sammy. Wait, Sammy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. You know, we were very happy last night to have so many people listening to the 20th anniversary of Ground Zero. I wanted to tell you that coming up this Saturday at noon, we're going to be doing face-to-face with Clyde Lewis on the internet. It is a huge gathering of Ground Zero listeners from all over the country, all over the world. Meeting up with me face-to-face using Google Hangouts. Now, we're going to be giving some direction on the Facebook page. So if you haven't liked the Facebook page yet, you should, because we're going to be giving you the directions on how you can get in and participate, talk, ask me anything. I want to see if we can get some other special guests to come in. We're going to make some phone calls. But I do know that Robert Hollis is going to be on the show with me this Saturday online. It's a face-to-face. Robert Hollis, of course, a very successful millionaire who wants to talk with us about the future. I'm going to have him on the program, and we're going to be talking with you face-to-face. It's face-to-face with Clyde Lewis. Be looking on the Ground Zero Facebook page to get face-to-face with me. Ask me anything on Saturday, this Saturday, April 4th at noon. It's just another part of what we're doing for the 20 years of broadcasting, the celebration 20 years of broadcasting of Ground Zero. And as we were discussing some of the things that we've talked about and haven't talked about, one of the things that Tracy Twyman and I were discussing was, you know, we've covered a lot of conspiracies, a lot of 14 talk, a lot of supernatural stuff. And we never really, I've never really taken on the granddaddy of all conspiracies, and that is the idea that the earth we live on is flat. Now, we've been taught that the height of stupidity and naivete is when an ignorant person comes on and says, oh, by the way, the earth is flat. So the flat earther thing has become literally synonymous with moron. People, you know, in fact, somebody just put in my Twitter, they said, hey, time for ridicule. He's going to talk about flat earth. But see, you know, I thought the same thing. I said to Tracy, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who's going to call and say, what the hell? And she says, well, there's this guy that I want you to talk to. I want you to listen to one of his videos. And I watch and listen to one of his videos, and I did. And I was really intrigued by what he had to say, because there were some things that I was working on when this whole plane crash happened out there in the Alps. I know that a lot of Ground Zero listeners are aware that, you know, we were doing this CERN thing with Anthony Patch, and we were discussing the possibility that CERN could have aggravated the gravitics of the Alps, and we already know that the Alps and the Andes and the Himalayas have what are known as this electronic crust underneath that has been, you know, looked at by the GOSI satellite. They've also been mapping the Earth, and they've come up with this idea that the Earth looks something like a what do you want to call it? Kind of a weird kind of chewed up bubblegum looking type thing. It's really kind of bizarre, but it doesn't look like the Earth is round by any stretch of the imagination. I know that some people say it's oblate, but you know, it just goes to show you that, you know, we really don't know, I guess, what the Earth looks like. We only have the pictures that they said that they took during the moon landing. Well, Mark Sargent on the program tonight, he also has a lot to say about the flat Earth, and he has a lot of theories behind it, so we thought we'd bring him on the program. We'll tell you more about the geoidal aspects of this. I was discussing it with him. Mark Sargent, you're on Ground Zero. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Clyde. Thank you for inviting me.
So, you know, believe it or not, Mark, even though that everybody thinks that, you know, being a flat earther makes you a moron or makes you crazy, there's actually a number of people who have written me and said, hey, you know, Clyde, you should talk about this, because there's a lot of new ground being covered by the newer flat earth theorists that takes into consideration the new mapping of the planet, geoidal kind of phenomenon going with it, the idea that it's not necessarily round or oblate, it's kind of shaped like a misshapen potato. I mean, kind of strange things coming out of science, you know, theories that I'm thinking, wait a minute, did we already establish with Copernicus that the Earth is round? Why is it that you think that there's this upswing, and why do you think, when did you start thinking that the world was flat?
Yeah, it's weird you even mentioned that, because a year ago, if you would have asked me, I would have told you that, you know, to leave the room. It was insane. It was crazy. There's no way it could be. But about 9 months ago, I started looking on, you know, on the internet, and there is sort of a kind of a little new new movement, sort of a new revolution of people that are coming forward and are questioning it for various reasons. And so I was kind of digging into it. And I wasn't sold on it because, for most people in the conspiracy world, and you'd know this, the flat earth theory or the enclosed world theory is not only the runt of the litter, it is the last one you would ever look at because it's ridiculous. And I certainly wasn't going to look at it. But I was looking at some of the guys' videos that was out there. Eric Dubay had some good stuff. The NASA channel had some interesting stuff. And I set out to debunk it, honestly. Before your callers come in and say you're absolute loon, look, I set out to stomp this thing out of the ground. Yeah. And as I was doing it, more and more stuff started really coming to light. And I was going through the timeline and, looking into Antarctica and exploring things and really, taking a hard look at NASA and pictures of the Earth or absence thereof. And then about 6 or 7 weeks ago, I just had this moment of clarity where I just woke up in the middle of the night and said, you know what? There's something to this. The message that's out there now is kind of like a staticky radio station. And so I decided to give it some clarity and structure. And I made a series of videos over really a very, very quick amount of time. I mean, most of the videos that are out there, the Flat Earth Clues, I did in 8-9 days. Tops, to do them all.
Is the new flat Earth philosophy kind of like the idea that, there have been a number of people now that have come forward and they're talking about the holographic universe, talking about how, this is all a construct, that we live in a false reality, that, everything we've been taught is wrong, and therefore, all the things we heard about the Earth being flat, firmament above and below, that's all applying now because, quite frankly, this is the Truman Show. What do you say?
Yeah. Are we talking about, not to get into predictive programming too much, but are we talking about a giant under the dome Truman Show, Simpsons movie dome? Take any other of the movies, the one that came out just recently, The Signal. Are we talking about a giant dome-like structure which more or less simulates a globe? And again, it sounds ridiculous. And but the more I looked into it, the more I started, there was a tipping point where I started looking at the globe and saying, okay, when exactly did this become a globe? And why does everybody believe without a shadow of doubt, without an inkling of doubt in their soul that it's a globe? And
it's normalcy bias is what it is. It's normal. I mean, look, our normalcy bias tells us, because for like 500 years, give or take a couple, maybe more, we've been told from, Pythagoras, you got all these people, Copernicus, you got Kepler, you got all of these people who have been pushing the issue of a round Earth, trying to, even Martin Luther and Calvin said that it was blasphemy to say that the Earth was round. And for some reason, the round Earth thing took off and held together, even before we had astronauts going up and allegedly taking pictures of the Earth some 250,000 miles out.
Long before that. And therein lies the problem. If you say that it's a globe in 1514, or whenever you decide that people really latched onto it, you've got a real problem there because the technology isn't even remotely close to discover it. I don't want to hear people saying, oh yeah, Magellan, circle the Earth, because, we were burning witches back then, right? So when, the first balloons to carry people weren't until 1760. The first airplanes weren't until 1900. That's 400 years later. And then to even get above the atmosphere, you weren't talking the first space shots. The Russians, the Americans, their first early rocket programs weren't until 1957. So the question then becomes, let's say you go up in 1957, or whenever you decide to take the picture, and it doesn't look exactly like the globe that's been sitting in your classroom for 20 generations.
Have you ever heard the Apollo, the Apollo 8 transmissions? And this is what was really weird. The Apollo 8 transmissions, if you remember, they were talking to the astronauts, and Mission Control said, can you get a shot of the Earth for us? And they said, okay, we'll give it a shot. So they went and they pointed it at the window to try and get a shot of the Earth. And one of the guys at Mission Control said, what am I looking at? And he says, that's the Earth. And he says, why is it I'm getting this blob kind of weird thing? He says, it doesn't look like anything I've seen in school. He says, well, let me see if I can get a telephoto lens. Anybody got a telephoto lens? And they're all like scrambling to find a telephoto lens to get a shot of the Earth. But what they got was just like this light, flat blob on the camera, and Mission Control's all pissed off saying, well, we spent all this money and this is what we get. We get a picture like this. And ever since then, I always thought to myself, well, what if that's what they were shooting at? They just saw this expansive blue blob that's out there, and you see that with the shuttle missions. You see that at the ISS. You see that everywhere. Where you just see that area. It's just this blue expansion, this huge blue expansion, and you see kind of a curvature, but it's really not. It's really not that definitive. And I was always thinking I always remember that Apollo 8 broadcast where they were just basically saying, I don't know what you're shooting at, but it doesn't look like anything I've seen in school. And that was one of the things I think was important to bring up to you to see if you even remember that broadcast.
I don't remember that broadcast, but it leads me into one of the points that I really hammered on early on, which I try to tell people. I go, okay, find me on the internet right now. It's an open book test. Find me 2 NASA sanctioned pictures of the Earth. And I say 2 because there's only one that ever sticks out, and it's the one showing most of Africa on a very, very cloudy Earth and what they're passing off as Antarctica. And that is the only picture that was on the internet and it's going to be lost on some people out there, because if you do a search, for the Earth from space now, if you do a Google search, you're going to see a whole bunch of composites. But 15 years ago, this was right in front of me.
I know. And I missed it. I brought that up about Io, too, or Io, the moon. They got composites now of everything. It's not necessarily a shot like the Earth or any other moon. It's just composites, and so that picture they took from the moon is very valuable because that's the standard, because that's all they got. Mark Sargent with us tonight on Ground Zero talking about the flat Earth. If you have any questions or if you want to be devil's advocate, give us a call, 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Everyone is in on the secrets, and big things are being planned. Call Clyde Lewis now. Ground Zero.
Well, I guess you could call this Flat Earth 101. Mark Sargent, my guest tonight, who is an expert on the flat Earth thought, the theories, the ideas, the facts, in his opinion, as to what we need to be looking at and understanding about something as crazy as believing the Earth is flat. Mark Sargent back with us. So, Mark, you're saying that you're just recently converting over to this idea. What was it? Okay, what was the first thing that caught you and you go, whoa, I got to check into this? What was the thing that grabbed you by the nape of the neck and said, Mark, you got to look at this. The Earth is flat.
The first thing that caught my eye was the map itself, which was, if you're using a map, and I was looking at the Flat Earth map, which is, if you look at the wiki map projections, it's called the Azimuthal, AZIMUTHL, equidistant map. That map seemed very unusual to me because what happens is, it's a top-down view from the North Pole, and all the continents are grouped to the center, and all the southern hemisphere oceans are stretched on the outside. But Antarctica on that map, excuse me, stretches around the entire outside like a giant ring of ice. And I thought, well, that should be easy enough to debunk because, Antarctica, as we all know, is a circular continent, a little bigger around than Australia. So that should be easy enough to prove. And so when I started doing research into the Antarctic expeditions, I ran into a guy who was more known for the hollow Earth theory. His name was Richard Byrd. And, excuse me, he was an admiral for the United States Navy. Youngest admiral of all time, age of 41. But after 1926, he didn't spend any more time at the North Pole. He spent it down in Antarctica and really spent from 1928 till his dying day in 1957 doing multiple expeditions down in Antarctica. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, I hadn't really known this. It's like, I knew about the hollow Earth theory, but I didn't know about Antarctica. So I was looking through his mission logs and stuff that was happening down there. And he comes back, after I think his 4th mission, because he had done 5 or 6. I think after his 4th, though, he comes back and does a tour of the United States. Because what he'd do is he'd do expeditions and come back and tour the States and do press conferences. And he did this CBS television show in 1954, and you can find it on YouTube. It's real easy to find. Just look up Richard E. Byrd. And the television show, he really talked about Antarctica being the greatest continent, out there as far as resources and scientific exploration, and he just couldn't talk about it enough. In fact, from a resource standpoint, he was saying that there was a mountain range made entirely of coal, and there was oil, and there was minerals, and the uranium, and all these nations were down there, including, Russia and England, Argentina, New Zealand, Australia. Everybody was down there. And then he goes down, he talks about he's going to go on for one more mission in 1955, which was called Operation Deep Freeze. Excuse me. So, hang on one second. So he goes down in 1955 for Operation Deep Freeze. And whatever happens down there, everything changes, because at the end of that, everything started to get really, really weird. And so the space program started to fire up, and I won't get into that right away, but they sealed off Antarctica, kicked everybody out, and they created the Antarctic Treaty in 1959, and they sealed off Antarctica forever. And by that, I mean no corporation to this day, even now, doesn't matter how powerful you are, petroleum industry, mining industry, gas industry, you don't get to go down there. Nobody gets to go down to Antarctica and do any resources, even though it's supposedly resource rich and very, very huge. And I thought that was very, very interesting, because if you wanted to hide something like a flat Earth model, that's exactly what you would do. The first thing you would have to do is seal off the outer edge. And so for me, the Antarctic being this, transformed from this, this smallish continent into this giant ring of ice became very, very real. And then I started looking at other things, but that was absolutely the first thing that caught my eye.
So the very idea that, you have all these rich resources and no country has laid claim to Antarctica. I mean, we don't...
Yeah, nobody owns Antarctica as of right now, and nobody's going to. In fact, the treaty isn't even up for negotiations until the year 2041.
And there's no government. There's no government in Antarctica. Nothing. It's just
there's some military bases down there, some scientific explorations, on the fringes. But as far as the core of it, and we're talking millions and millions of square miles, nobody gets to do anything. And, and as, of course they say, well, now it's because of environmentalism. And I go, fine, environmentalism, that's great. But in 1959, that didn't exist. I mean, Greenpeace wasn't even founded until 1971. And that was just a few guys in a tie-dye shirt and in a raft. So don't tell me you're sealing off in 1959 for environmental reasons. Whatever the reason was, it was to hide something. And for me, that was the first step of the journey, which was, okay, how big is this thing? What are we talking about here? Because, it was what I was expecting them to do. It was what I would do.
Well, and if you take a look at the flat maps, as you say, you see Antarctica covers that whole stretch underneath all those continents, and it's almost as if it's like a barrier, and that the barrier gets taller and taller to keep us from wanting to get off the planet if the barrier edge was there.
Antarctica is 2 miles high. It slopes up very, very steeply, and it's unique as far as all the continents is concerned, because it becomes a 2 mile high minimum plateau that extends the entire continent. No other continent is like this.
It's amazing. Mark Sargent with us tonight on Ground Zero, talking about flat Earth. He's an expert, recently converted to believing that the Earth is flat. If you have anything you'd like to ask him, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. More to come. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Not a ball, but actually a flat surface, a plane.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
Oh dear, yes. Now look at Greenland.
Okay. Are you saying the map is wrong?
Now look at Africa.
Okay. Are you saying the map is wrong?
The two land masses appear to be roughly the same size.
Yes.
It would blow your mind if I told you that Africa is in reality 14 times larger.
Yes. Are you saying the map is wrong?
Here we have Europe, drawn considerably larger than South America. When it's 6.9 million square miles, South America is almost double the size of Europe's 3.8 million.
Alaska appears 3 times as large as Mexico, when Mexico is larger by 0.1 million square miles.
Germany appears in the middle of the map when it's in the northernmost quarter of the Earth.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is? Nothing's where you think it is.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
And this is our school. This is where we start to prepare our young for the future.
Why?
The world is a circle without a beginning, and nobody knows where it really ends. Everything depends on where you are in the circle that never begins. Nobody knows where the circle ends.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. Imagine what you know.
Okay, it's a little difficult to see what we have. That's the Earth, but it's not the telephoto lens, unfortunately. It's just a regular inside lens. Okay, it's coming in as a real bright blob on the screen. It's hard to tell what we're looking at.
It scares the living daylights out of everyone.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. My guest tonight is Mark Sargent, expert on the flat Earth. More and more people are converting over to the idea that the Earth is flat. Tonight, a recent convert to that philosophy, Mark Sargent, to talk to us about it, 888-673-3700. And so you were saying that the maps and the Antarctic ice pack, or at least the ice wall, convinced you that this is the horizon that's being blocked off, that we're not getting any more knowledge about it. Were there other things? I mean, I remember someone was they were actually remarking to me on Facebook that the way any pilot or any commercial aircraft plots its courses through the southern hemisphere is kind of suspect as well.
Yeah. The GPS system in the southern hemisphere caught my eye, mostly because there was a YouTube guy sometime last year posted a thing on how you couldn't get any nonstop flights in the southern hemisphere. And I thought that was really interesting. So I started doing some research on it. And yeah, it was very, very tough to do. 95% of the flights in the southern hemisphere, and by that I mean most of the stuff in Australia to most of the stuff in South America, are connections. And that was really, really odd. So I started doing some more research on it. And it's like, okay, why are there such few nonstops? But when you look at the azimuthal equidistant map, which, by the way, I'm going to go on a side tangent here, is also the map. If you look in the wiki list of map projections, it's also used by the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey. And it is also the map that is used on the United Nations flag. Which is also the same map that the Flat Earth people use on their official map, although two of those maps are completely legit, but the Flat Earth map is absolutely insane. So, but if you use that map, the flights can't, if you're using a Flat Earth map, flights, which you would normally see on the southern hemisphere, become very, very stretched because it becomes the outer border. And so distances become skewed. And so it's going, okay, that's really strange. And so how would they hide that? And they would hide that mostly with connections. For example, if you're going from Sydney, Australia to Buenos Aires, that's 7,400 miles straight across the South Pacific Ocean. If you're using a globe, that's a piece of cake. But if you're using a literal flat azimuthal map, it's a weird angle you have to take that crosses the United States. And what was weird was when I was looking at it, one of the connections that you use if you're going to go from Sydney to Buenos Aires cuts through San Francisco or Los Angeles. And on a globe, it makes no sense at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. But on a flat map, it's almost literally a straight shot. And that happens time and time again with these connections, like, connections going from New Zealand, going up to Dubai, and then down to Buenos Aires, or again, anywhere in the southern part of South America. It doesn't make sense on a globe, but it does on a flat map, and it's really, really strange.
I had a rude awakening.
That caught my eye as well.
The other night, I got a rude awakening about antipodals. We were talking about CERN, and if it was to, or maybe Fukushima, if it was to melt down, where would it end up? And see, I was thinking to myself that if it's like, for example, you look at Switzerland, you look at CERN, you look at France, you look at all these areas where CERN is, And I was saying if it was to melt through, it's an essential area there. It would probably melt through to another area that would be north central. But according to antipodal maps, you have to take into consideration that the map is skewed to where the south meets north and the north meets south. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing everything that you thought was right side up, upside down, and vice versa. So you don't know how the planet is literally positioned. We've just been taught that everything is like the United States, Canada, Canada, the United States, South America, Russia, Europe, India, Italy, and then further into Africa and then down. That's how we see the map, but that's not how the maps are now. That's not how the Earth is, really. That's what I'm figuring out with these antipodal ideas.
Yeah. And by the way, that one of those clips you played before you had me on, where it was the West Wing, where they were talking about the Mercator map versus the Gall-Peters map. I like to use that. In fact, I'm going to try to use that in my next clue, and that is, look, they won't even show you exactly the proportions, the accurate proportion differences between the continents. The map that you see on your blackboard, that shows, the wonderful, United States and how Greenland is really, really big and Africa it seems just as big. Every scientist knows that's not the case, but they have a hard time even trying to introduce the correct proportion maps into schools because there's a comfort zone issue and they don't want to freak people out. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I was looking at that scene again because I remember that scene, and I remember I was just as baffled as Allison Janney was. Yeah, she was appearing to be in the segment, staring at it. I was like, going, now wait a minute, is this real? And then I looked up, and it is. It's real. They said that the maps that we see today are disproportionate to the land masses that really exist. Like Greenland and Africa are basically the same size.
But they're not. Africa's 17 times bigger. Yeah.
Right. And that Mexico or I can't remember, was some continent or something, they make it smaller when in reality it's much bigger.
Oh, yeah. South America's monstrous. Africa is monstrous. And that line that she said at the end, where she, she goes, what the hell is that? And he goes, it's where you've been living this whole time. Yeah. And we don't know. And again, they won't even show you that. And so when people say, well, why would the authority hide, the real shape of the earth from us? Are you kidding? They won't even show you a slight difference.
Well, and it's also a part of programming. I mean, if a continent, if the North American continent is superior as it looks on a map, we're above Mexico and Canada's above us. And that's the thing, is that it's the pecking order. You've got the maps the way they are. They show the richer, more affluent continents as bigger, and the ones that aren't so approved are the ones that are being diminutized, or being smaller or shortened or somehow shrunk down. And so the land masses don't match the true land masses as far as scale on a regular map or on a regular globe.
Absolutely. And on an azimuthal map, there is no north, south, east, or west. No one's even, everybody's just grouped up in the center and, with oceans on the outside. And, there is no top or bottom model. Interesting.
I'm going to go to Chris now because he's kind of, actually, Chris has been thinking along the same lines you are about the positions of the continents. Chris, you were talking about just what he kind of touched upon, what Mark touched upon, that is the UN flag. Tell us more about that, Chris.
Well, I just like your guest has been saying, I've been delving down this rabbit hole as well online and all the YouTube videos, and that was one thing that really stood out to me was that the UN flag had the flat Earth map on it, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And another thing that in relation to that map was, remember the movie Dark City?
Yes,
excellent movie.
It's actually a movie about the flat Earth theory. In that movie, you remember that dark council standing around. They had a round table they were standing around. They had these black blocks in the center of the circle, and those black blocks, if you correlate it to the flat Earth map, line up perfectly.
Yeah.
So, Chris, this is one. Mark, tell me about. Chris was kind of touching on this flat Earth map on the UN. Is this true? Is this the? I mean, I've seen the map of the UN. I've seen the flag of the UN, and yes, the continents look a little bit mushed and squished. Is that truly a flat Earth version of?
It is absolutely a flat Earth version. In fact, I covered it in clue 3, which was called the Map Makers. And if you lay the flat Earth map or the azimuthal equidistant map right on top of the United Nations flag, it is identical, with the exception of one thing, which is on the UN flag, there is no Antarctica. For some strange reason, they left out the entire continent of Antarctica. And that flag was, the final version of it was done in 1946. Happened to be coincidentally about the same time as Operation High Jump, but we won't go into that. So instead of Antarctica on the outside, they have a pair of giant spiky wreaths that almost surround the entire thing. But they never talk about it in any, you can go ahead and look it up on the internet. The UN flag never talks about the absence of Antarctica on that map, and I find that just fascinating.
It's always intriguing. Of course, we had a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding Antarctica. The Nazis were fascinated with Antarctica, possibly even new Schwabenland bases out there that they have hidden the saucers there, if anything else. And so there's so many things that lead to this type of speculation. Mark, how do you feel about the northern end with the hollow Earth idea, or the idea that there's some way to dig in and go below the surface?
In the model that I kind of follow, which is really based on Orlando Ferguson's 1830 flat and stationary Earth model, it's not shaped. It's not perfectly flat. And I know flat earthers out there are going to cringe and say, blasphemy, it's as flat as a coin. And it's like, what? Okay, fine. I don't care. The model I'm using is, it's more shaped like a roulette table you have that kind of bulge in the center which helps with sunrise and sunsets. Now, if there is a bulge in the center and it is very, and that bulge is deep enough, oh, absolutely. You could go into the hollow Earth theory, which, is based on Admiral Byrd's 1926 mission in a pretty rickety plane, where he went in there. Oh, yeah, there'd be more than enough room for a hollow Earth theory. Hollow Earth theory, in my model, does not clash with flat Earth at all.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you for the call, and thank you for adding to the conversation tonight.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, it's interesting. So you have a lot of people like Chris, for example, who's noticed that the flat Earth model is on the UN flag. Is that an indication? Are they hinting something with that?
I think they jumped the gun, as a matter of fact. I have no doubt. I have absolutely no doubt that ancient societies and ancient groups, and I don't necessarily want to call out too many of them by name, but there are higher big orders of people that knew about this. But if you didn't have the technology to do anything about it, then it just kind of blended into myth and legend. So let's say say you were the king of Spain in the 1500s. You had an old map that showed you, the circular map. What could you do about it? You still had wooden hulled ships and cold weather gear was limited. There was nothing you could do. So I think starting in about 1928, they figured, okay, we've got the technology to figure out what the world, if it's actually true. And I think they were looking for it and sent Byrd, and he was their point guy. And they sent him for 30 years trying to look for this thing. And I think at one point, the early 1950s, 1953, 1954, I think they gave up at one point. It's like, you know what? He hasn't found it in 30 years. Let's just call it quits and, make a whole bunch of money.
Fantastic.
And then, of course, that's Murphy's Law, because, the very next year, everything changed and everything just went completely sideways and the government started doing strange stuff.
Mark Sargent, my guest tonight on Ground Zero, making some good arguments about flat Earth. Recently converted to that philosophy and idea. Many people now are taking a second look at flat Earth theories and trying to piece together just what is going on and why scientists and many other people don't agree about how the Earth is shaped and whether or not it's flat, round, or a plate or whatever. Just some strange theories coming out about the Earth lately. We thought we had it all down for 500 years, but apparently not. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Tonight, rolling out the granddaddy of conspiracies, the idea that they have been convincing us for hundreds of years that we have a round Earth, when in reality we have a flat Earth. Mark Sargent with us tonight on Ground Zero. Taking your phone calls at 888-673-3700. We go now to Joan in Colorado on KRDO. You're talking with Mark Sargent. Go ahead, Joan.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. I learned a long time ago that the Earth was actually an oblate ellipsoid type shape, which means flattened at the poles. and, elliptical or ellipsoid. But anyway, so I have a question. And when I think of flat, I think of edges. So where are these edges, Mark?
Got it. Hey, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Where are the edges, she says?
The edges in this case, there's going to be two types of edges. One is going to be the Antarctica, the entire continent. So if you look at it as a azimuthal map, from the top down, the first edge is literally going to be, and I know it's tough to visualize without seeing the map, but imagine the entire continent of Antarctica is literally stretched around the outside of a dinner plate. That would be the outer edge. And then the upper edge would be, in this case, a Truman Show type, dome. And there's been a lot of dispute as far as how far up it is. Is it 400 miles? Is it 2,000 miles? But that would be the upper and the outer edge.
Well, when they do measurements of the different shields, like the electromagnetic shield, et cetera, shouldn't there be, and just the atmosphere, shouldn't there be changes in as far as the distances? And I know there are, but there should be consistent changes. Shouldn't there be with the flat Earth theory?
Well, are we talking about the arc of the enclosure itself?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what they were doing. And I know we hadn't covered it here yet, but in 1957, when the rocket program started up. In 1958, they put nukes on the top of them, and they started firing nukes straight up, both the United States and Russia, for 4 years, and put some heavy stuff up there. And I think in that case, they were defining the shape. They were painting the sky, with hundreds of kilotons and sometimes, going into the megatons. And I think they mapped it out. Now, do we know what exactly they mapped out? No, but I have no doubt that it's some sort of uniform shape. And if you want to call it the firmament, you can. I don't want to necessarily lean too much on one religion, but yeah, I absolutely do think there's a shape.
It's different than what maybe people think. But yeah. Well, the other thing is, so how do we have, the bolts that you spoke of could kind of explain the 24-hour day that we have?
Yeah. In an enclosed system like this, the sun and the moon, and it's not just my model, it's most of the flat Earth models that are out there. The sun and the moon are actually, suspended. They are above the circle and they're moving independently. The sun is not 92 million miles away, and the moon is not 237,000 miles away. They are way, closer, and they circle the top part.
There you go, Joan. We're out of time, but I appreciate you calling in tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You bet. Bye-bye. Mark Sargent with us tonight on Ground Zero. Just recently converted over to the idea that the Earth is flat, and he's got a lot of things he wants to tell you about why he feels this way. If you have any questions, you can give us a call. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. More from Mark Sargent, more of your calls coming up on Ground Zero. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
Let me be clear. As a citizen and as president, Ground Zero is indeed essential on radio and is essential to who we are.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Most scientists love to explain something simple with a needlessly complicated theory. And in this case, well, we have unwittingly fallen into a possible position to open the door for a resurrection of what can be called the age-old conspiracy of flat Earth thought or flat Earth theory. There have always been and likely will continue to be people who steadfastly maintain that the Earth is flat. This is clearly an eccentric position, and yet the most common representations of the Earth are flat maps. We hear in the Bible the four corners of the Earth or the ends of the Earth. Thousands of years of effort have been put into the representations of the Earth as a globe, and many of the techniques used are highly sophisticated and still quite valuable today. So far, we have made the simplifying assumption that the Earth is a perfect sphere. Looking at many bumps and hills, we see that this is clearly not the case if you're looking at the geoid Earth. The geoid Earth is something that I discovered as I was doing my investigations into the Alps and the surrounding areas of CERN. I noticed the geoid map was part of the mapping of irregular structures, ups, downs, canyons, mountains, places in the ocean that definitely go below sea level. And as we look at the geoid irregular structure of the Earth looks more or less like a potato or a big ball of dough that needs to be spun around quickly to look more like pizza. So I guess you could say some questions you could ask about this whole thing and working with the resulting models. You can get very complex. You can be very simple. Most applications, though, is we're looking at an ellipsoidal model of the Earth. That's sufficient, I guess. A best fit ellipsoid for the Earth is about 0.3% shorter than it is wide and differs from the geoid vertical, which is about 100 meters at worst. But despite its lumps, the geoid is a bunch of ellipsoidal flat circles. So the question we ask, is the Earth flat? Is the Earth flat? Yes. In some places, it's flat. Is it round? Yes. At its best, right at the equator. Is spinning and distance part of the illusion that the Earth is a perfect sphere? I guess if you use the pizza dough analogy I used in the first hour. So if you wonder about my opinion of the flat Earth, I can tell you that, I can look at what Charles Fort once said, and that is, he said, quote, if there's an underlying oneness of all things, it doesn't matter where we begin, whether with stars or laws or supply and demand or frogs or Napoleon Bonaparte. One measures a circle beginning anywhere. So I guess it's better to ponder some pure form, circular logic and talk with my guest tonight, Mark Sargent, who actually is an expert on the flat Earth. I was discussing with my staff. We had Crow 777 on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about what is known as the moon wave. And just curious as to what you think of his this guy. Once again, he also kind of pushes the issue that the Earth is nothing more than some sort of a staging area where we're in some sort of a holographic universe. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because Crow 777 is one of the guys that I reference, and I know the Flat Earth community just hates me for referencing it because he's not officially a Flat Earth guy. But what I was trying to get the point was, like, look, if you want to see some really interesting images of the moon to give you a second take of where we're actually living, yeah, look at that guy's videos. Yeah, the lunar wave stuff that he has is brilliant. And so, for me, I had to use him because it's the best footage out there I've ever seen of the moon. And it folds into my model very, very well. And that is, look, the moon is not what you think it is. And, if it is 237,000 miles away, I really, really doubt it. But yeah, it's a fantastic, great stuff that he does. I love his footage, and I recommend him, and I subscribe to his channel. And bring him up whenever I can. So it was a wonderful coincidence that I get to follow him.
Oh, fantastic. Let's go to Daniel in Texas. Daniel, you're on with Mark Sargent. Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
Hold on one second.
You're on the air, buddy. Hold on one second.
Hey,
you're supposed to be ready when we get to your telephone call. Let's go. You there? Okay, you're not there. We're going to have to go to someone else. Let's go now to John in Texas, KTRH, John Ground Zero.
Hey, guys. Really interesting show tonight. I got a question. How come we have pictures from outer space from astronauts of the Earth? It looks so spherical. And then second to that, if we have pictures from outer space of the Earth and it looks like a sphere, with the easiest way to tell if it were flat, for me, in my mind, and I haven't done any research on this, I will, but I haven't so far. Right now, it's just kind of intriguing. What I would do is fly a plane from wherever I'm sitting exactly west and try to end up right where I was when I came back around. And then right after that, fly a plane exactly north and try to end up exactly where I am sitting right now, and then judge those two distances and see if those are exact or not. Would that prove or disprove anything, or would that just be a waste of time?
Do you want me to grab this?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, from that standpoint, that's actually not a bad idea. However, please, I'm not going to do it justice, but, please watch the Flat Earth Clues thing on YouTube or just Google Flat Earth Clues, because the GPS, in order to do those two things, fly east to west and north to south, you're going to have to use the GPS system. And in my opinion, the GPS system, no different than NASA, was created primarily to keep us from seeing what the Earth really looks like. So in short, the GPS system couldn't be trusted for those sort of plane flights, especially once you get to the southern hemisphere, because your plane's going to drop off the radar anyway.
Right. So then we would have to do it with a old school a nautical compass. No,
you don't even have to do that. I've got a better way. If you don't mind me saying it on air, there's a great way, because to prove this out one way or another, whether it's flat. And I don't know if I'm going to be the one to do it, but what you do is you take two ships, two cold weather ships. You put them in, on a flat map, put them side by side next to each other in some sort of 6 o'clock position, if the face is a clock. And then one goes clockwise, the other goes counterclockwise. If Antarctica is only as big as they say it is, then it should take about the same, time around that, you would have to go around Australia, not accounting for icebergs. But if that map is literal, then you could go a week, you could go 2 weeks, you could go 3 weeks, and those ships would not meet. And for me, because on an azimuthal map, the Antarctica can't, if it's a globe, then that Antarctica's coastline cannot be that big. And that's how I would solve it. So just so you know.
Okay.
Thank you, John, for the call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go to Robert in California. Let's see on K-News. You're on Ground Zero.
Hello. First, I thought this was an April Fool's joke.
Okay.
That's the first thing I thought, and then the person who answered your phone said, no, it's not an April Fool's joke. And then the second thing I thought of is the person who's talking, is he from Lancaster, California? Because that's where the Flat Earth Society is based out of, is Lancaster. And then the next thing I have to ask is do you ever look at the heavens and at night and see the moon and the stars and all the different planets, and they're all round, and
Robert, you realize that the moon is a unique thing. It's a unique round sphere. It's pretty unique in the big scheme. I mean, not everything. I mean, the only reason why we see round planets is because, and this is the truth, and I'm not a flat earther by any stretch, NASA has artistically rendered them so.
So when I look at the sun, you mean to tell me the sun, when I see the sun with my own plain eyes,
round.
I look at the moon with my own plain eyes?
The sun is round, but some of the planets that we see up there, that have been up there, they've been rendered round. Some of them aren't perfectly round. In fact, Mars isn't even red. You see, Mars is yellow. It's a yellow planet. Robert, will you let me speak, please? Please let me. You're not funny. You're interrupting me, and I'm trying to speak here. Have you ever seen Mars in a telescope? It's not red. It's yellow, because NASA artistically renders it red. It's yellow. It looks yellow, and it doesn't even look half spherical when you're looking at it through a telescope. You kind of have to use your imagination because you're looking through a round lens.
Oh man, it's just funny.
Robert, have you seen Mars through a telescope? Yes or no?
I have. Yes, I have.
So then you know that it's a yellow planet, not a red planet.
Yes.
Okay,
mean, you can look.
It's a yellow planet, and then when you look at it, it seems to have some strange tapers that don't necessarily make it look round. It looks kind of weird. It doesn't look anything like what you see in the textbooks. It's weird.
Yeah, and then, I mean, they've flown the SR-71 through the whole... So when they fly the SR-71 and the planet's not just... Holy crud.
When they've flown the SR-71, what are you saying, Robert? I'm trying to figure out here. What?
The SR-71 is flown from one spot to another throughout the... you got, oh my God, and you're perpetuating this on the radio.
I'm not perpetuating anything. Robert's perpetuating it. I'm just trying to figure out where you're coming from. Your normalcy bias is getting crushed, and I'm just watching it break down, and I feel bad.
Can I throw something at Robert?
Quickly, yes, go ahead.
Hey, Rob, real quick.
Look at the sun. So somehow the Earth is different from all the other planets? Somehow it's flat?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that everything up in the sky may not be what you think it is, man.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Robert, have you ever seen the planet as a geoidal sphere? Or I don't even know if you can call it a sphere. Have you heard of the geoid mapping of the planet? Have you seen that? That doesn't make us look anywhere near as round as you think it is. It looks like a chewed up wad of bubble gum. What's that?
I understand that the Earth is shaped like an egg. I understand.
No, I'm not talking about O'Blade. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Earth shaped like a wad of chewing gum.
Okay.
Yeah, have you seen that?
So a wad of chewing gum is flat?
Well, it's got some flat places.
So you mean to tell me that if all of a sudden a ship went to the edge of the Earth, somehow it'd have to do a 90-degree turn in order to be able to keep on going? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Maybe
it'd be a 3-stop U-turn. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, that's your area. Come on, I don't know. Robert? I'm confused now. I'm completely confused.
Robert, let me ask you one question.
No. You know what? We're out of time. So I know we've basically. I'm gonna go pound my head against the wall. I'll be back. Robert, thank you for calling. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Mark Sargent's with us tonight on Ground Zero. Flat Earth and a lot of interesting commentary coming from people and interesting commentary coming from Mark. Okay, Mark, I want to ask you a question. Yep. How do we explain eclipses? I mean, the eclipse, we see the shadow of the Earth covering the moon. How do we beat that with flat Earth? Because we got an eclipse coming up. Saturday morning.
Good point. When it comes to those two big objects, the sun and the moon. In fact, I'll even throw a Crow 777 reference in there. I think it's simulated. I do not trust what the moon, what is happening on the moon. I don't trust. So if, for example, there are lunar waves, and if the moon is some sort of, regardless whether it's a 2D thing or a 3D model that's being projected upon, that's simulated. It's easy enough to do from a programming standpoint. Doing a blood moon or the eclipse on the other side, then you just swing one object in front of the other, or you could do it directly on the sun itself. There's multiple ways you could do it.
Wow. Okay, let's go to Jack in New Jersey. Mark Sargent, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing tonight? Great topic. I watched all the clips, very informative. Never really subscribed to this or like most people say, oh, that's crazy. But he's very compelling in the way he presents all this information. That said, the idea that we are possibly now in a flat Earth and with it finite boundaries, almost like a container or like a hamster cage, it kind of makes more sense now why world governments and others have put certain control measures in place just in the past 100 years in terms of worrying about the population, climate, the global climate change, possibly food resources, and even making underground bases for whatever reason to preserve it all. So I'm wondering if Mark has any views on that. And, the idea for the longest time that we were going to go somewhere else, go to space and go beyond. Now, this makes more sense, including,
Go ahead, Mark, and answer his question. Go ahead.
Yeah. From a government standpoint, you got to remember that, when this, in my opinion, this was not going to be a secret that could have been kept forever. I think it was, if let's say this was a giant Truman Show under the dome type scenario, I don't think it could have been kept forever. But the governments in power decided, that's 60 years ago now, that they didn't want to see any sort of big shift in how things were worked. And I'm not going to address the climate stuff that he was talking about because it's way too recent. But I will say this. because the big question comes up, it's like, why would they hide it? I get that all the time. It's like, why would the governments, why would the authority, why would the world governments hide it, the ones that knew? And for me, it came down to a fundamental shift in how people view, well, let's just say it, the builder, the creator, who built it? Because I get that all the time. Who built it? Who created? And from a religious standpoint, the major 5 religions and, all the minor ones, they would all of a sudden, all of them would have their own version of the Ark of the Covenant, physically in front of them. I don't want to get too metaphysical by saying, there's a barrier with a handprint of God on it. But if there was proof of a structure, that is proof of some sort of intelligent design. And the governments, the authority, you're very rich, your royalty, they wouldn't want to backpedal and try to recover from that. It's a tough thing to do. So yeah, putting strict controls in place ever since then, absolutely. Anything you could think of, population control, climate, control, anything they can to keep you distracted, to keep you from looking for the fence. Does that sort of help?
That answer your question?
Yeah, very much so. And if I just could add one more thing to that, most people, I know for myself, don't go beyond going to Disney World or Hawaii for a vacation, and they've never gone up higher than in a plane. So it's not like they're going to explore outer space, let alone what's beyond Chile, what's down in the Antarctic. So it's kind of like a perfect container, the way he's describing it.
Well, it's also a perfect cover if you want to believe it. I mean, it's a great cover because no one really knows what goes on in Antarctica. We have our speculations. There are a few bases down there. The Germans had interest in it. Admiral Byrd had interest in it, but the interest is gone, and no one has claimed it. So that makes you wonder about just what its purpose is besides just being a big ice shelf to block us from whatever. Who knows? I mean, to hear Mark, it's like it's a big shelf to block us from falling off the other side of the planet, I guess.
Yeah. And a lot of it, by the way, falls on the shoulders of NASA. I really haven't dug into them too much, but they would be the organization to be in charge of really the cover up because they control the skies. And that's it again. That was when I was trying to debunk it. That was one of the things that stuck out. It's like, okay, you're going to have to control the skies somehow. And then right after, the third big nuclear test, was 1958 was when NASA was formed. And everything, in my opinion, from 1958 on, the space program was just a sham. Isn't even the right word for it. Because it wasn't that they wanted to do it; they had to do it. If you don't control the skies, then private industry is going to step in sooner or later, and they're going to take the picture. The big thing, again, why NASA got involved in 1958 was eventually you had to take the picture. There was no picture of Earth, until 1969, 1970, depending on when you want to date stamp that first shot.
That's interesting. And, yeah, it's a great point. Mark, we'll be back with more. Keep it here. Don't go away.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Let me tell you something. If some of these folks were around when Columbus set sail, they must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round.
Instead of starting in, say, Rio and landing in Auckland, I'll start what should be the opposite side in Cape Town, South Africa, which is roughly the same distance on a globe Earth.
The map is not the territory.
I try to book my flight. So the first leg, the airlines don't send me due east, but instead shoot me 4,700 miles almost due north to Dubai. And from Dubai, it should be a straight shot home to Auckland, right?
The map is not the territory.
Now they send me southeast to Melbourne, a mere 7,300 miles. And then finally a third leg from Melbourne to Auckland coming in at around 1,600 miles.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
The total miles for this flight is almost double what should be expected, coming in at 13,600 miles. In addition, the trip took me 37 hours. How long should it have taken? Well, in a 777, about 12.
Captain, how soon can you land? I can't tell. You can tell me I'm a doctor. No, I'm just not sure. Okay, take a guess. Well, not for another 2 hours. You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
The first part of the clue is the utter lack of nonstop flights from anywhere in this hemisphere. Start in Christchurch, go to Auckland. Start in Auckland, go to Sydney. Start in Sydney, go to Dubai or Los Angeles or somewhere else that makes no sense. You can't get a single nonstop flight, no matter how much money you pay.
The map is not the territory.
But this is all just numbers, right? It is until you pull up the flat Earth map and look at the farthest 2 points.
The map is not the territory.
Well, the pilots would know, right? They fly all day, every day. Certainly, they would have figured it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. What I'm about to tell you is something I can't explain myself.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and you are listening to Ground Zero. Tonight, thoughts on flat Earth. It may be outrageous. You may think that this is like a day late for April Fool's Day, but Mark Sargent has just converted over to the theories and ideas of flat Earth. Now, I got a confession to make about flat Earth theory and flat Earth thought. You know, I believe the Earth is round. I believe all that, okay? And I know that everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I personally feel that, the Earth is round. I'm going to stick by that unless I can be convinced otherwise. But here's the deal, Mark, and I got to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you know what mega cryometeors are?
Mega cryometeors. Enlighten me.
Mega cryometeors are unexplained big blocks of ice that come from space.
Okay.
And no one knows how they get here. They just show up. Everyone, they're a 14 thing, okay? And many people, there are many times that mega cryometeors have been made. They're not completely understood. Some people say they're made with respect to the atmospheric dynamics necessary to produce them. Perhaps they are mega cryo hailstones that have been formed in the sky, but these are huge chunks. I mean, about the size of, a VW bus, let's say. Yeah. That's why they call it a mega cryometeor, because it's a meteor, it's just solid ice, and it hits the planet. Now, when I first heard of mega cryometeors, this is where I started thinking, oh my gosh, flat Earth. And the reason why is because there are some people who are flat Earth believers who state that we live on a flat Earth and above us is a huge dome, and that the whole idea of the Antarctic shelf goes a lot higher and a lot farther than just what Antarctica would, and that there are chunks of ice that are way out there above the dome where it's super cold, and every once in a while a piece breaks off and comes hurtling down to the planet. What do you say to that?
I have heard this as well. I did not know that's what they were called, though. People have suggested to me, from the concave movement, that somehow the ice wall is so high that it actually goes up like a giant fishbowl, which, by the way, is interesting because part of the package of nuke tests the United States did in the 50s was called Operation Fishbowl. But to your question, do I think in my model? No, the ice ring doesn't go up that high. Now, where these chunks of ice come from, you're right. That's a tough one because, people's asked me, it's like, are these chunks of ice part of the dome? Is the dome made out of ice? And I was going, well, for me, no, I really don't think so. But it's a hard material. Could it be a heavy, dense water and there's frozen parts of it? Possibly. Is ice introduced artificially? Also possible. I don't know, but it's an interesting concept. And I don't discount it entirely because obviously there is ice and the stuff you're talking about has been reported for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Oh yeah. I mean, a long time, even before, people would say, well, maybe it's an airplane dropping off its stuff, but no.
No. This is way before that.
Yeah, these are huge ice blocks, icicles, ice whatever. They're dangerous, and they some of them weigh tons, and they fall out of space, fall out of the sky. They fall out of outer space. When they hit, it's like a bomb going off.
Yeah, and it is fascinating. As a matter of fact, there was I reference this every once in a while. There's a wonderful PDF file called the M.K. Jessup Case for the UFO, where he talks about all stuff going all the way back to the early 1800s. Of course, it goes much further than that, where giant ice sheets have fallen onto farmland, and it's a fascinating concept.
It's the idea. I mean, even Charles Ford at one time believed that we had, maybe even Velikovsky believed it, that we had a huge water wall above us And then, of course, that water wall came down, and that's why we had the floods. That was an antediluvian theory that the waters from heaven came down and mixed with the waters of the ocean.
Exactly. Or the Genesis, the firmament separating the waters from the waters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We were forged in water. We were born of the water, and it's always been that way. That's why we do baptisms and things of that nature. Let's go to Skillet in Alabama. You're on Ground Zero.
Skillet?
Hey, Clyde.
What's
I don't know how you're ever going to top yourself. 2 weeks ago, you had a cat off saying that the moon was a hologram. Now you got somebody. Is that guy in there in the studio right now, Mark? Is he right there with you?
No, he's not.
Or is he on the phone?
He's on
Skype. I'm out in Boulder, Colorado.
He walks out wherever he's at. They might be looking for him because anybody that's going to say that the world's flat, I'd be afraid to walk outside. You might have a straitjacket thrown on you. But I'm telling you what, I never thought I'd be able to talk to anybody crazier than me, but this must be my lucky day. Let me ask you a question like this. I think I heard him say that we didn't have a photograph of the Earth until 1969. Oh, I don't believe that's correct.
No, it's absolutely correct. By all means, please Google the Earth from space, man, and take a look at what's out there. There's so few things that are legit from NASA. Absolutely, we didn't have a picture of the Earth from space.
Well, how about the first rocket in 1962? You don't think they snapped some kind of a Polaroid or something from that?
And you're absolutely right, Skillet. That begs the question, what took them so long before they actually released a picture? You're absolutely right. Why did it take them over a decade to release any picture? And why was that picture literally the only picture on the internet you could get of the Earth from space until, I think, like 2005? Why was that?
Oh, those NASA guys aren't a bunch of crooks. You better get off that, man. You start thinking like that, you'll drive yourself crazy. You might. I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing is, he's a flat earther and he's crazy. I don't believe we landed on the moon in '69, so I'm kind of nuts.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you another thing. I'm also a witch doctor too, and I'll prove that. You just wait till the Kentucky Wildcats play in a couple nights from now. Wisconsin beat them. You know why? I'm going to put a voodoo hex on the Kentucky Wildcats. Then I just got one more thing to say. That's Church Monday.
Oh man,
that goes into the 40-year anniversary calls right there. Wow. I'm old, decrepit. I don't care. I just love Skillet's call. Okay, we're going to go to Lana in Colorado. KRDO, you're on Ground Zero. Go ahead, Mark Sargent. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, Lana. You're on the phone. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, Clyde.
Hey.
Really nice to speak with you tonight.
Good to speak with you.
This might be off the subject, but your guest had mentioned to another caller that to look up in the sky, what you see isn't always what you think it is. And there's a very bright, it looks like a very large star or a planet. It's always up in the western sky, usually around dusk or when it's turning evening. And I know it's not a planet. It's just very close. It's up there every night. And I'm wondering if either one of you could shed some light, or if you know what I'm talking about.
How do you know it's not a planet? I mean, we've got Jupiter and Mars and a number of planets aligning right now. So, yeah, it must definitely be a planet if it's in the twilight sky, whether it be morning or evening.
Well,
do you know what constellation it's next to?
Pardon?
Do you know what constellation it's next to, by chance?
You know what? It's there's really nothing else up in the sky but this, and I've looked at it through the telescope and binoculars, and it doesn't even look. The shape of it is just unusual, and it's just so close. It seems like it's extremely close.
We also have the ISS that's in the sky that we see all the time. It looks like a huge ball of fire in the sky that's looking down. It's almost like a second sun. It's up there as well. We've got a lot of things up there that, pretty much remain stationary, and they're bright. And sometimes if we don't look at the sky enough, we look at something that looks odd, that doesn't belong there, and we immediately say to ourselves, that's a UFO. It doesn't move. It's just there. But, chances are if it's up there, it's bright, and it's not moving as fast as you'd like it to, chances are it's a planet of some kind, or maybe even a space station.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to take that as the answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, unless it comes down and it knocks on your door and, asks for cookies, I would say it's a space station. Something like that. All right? All right, Lana?
Okay. Another thing, Clyde,
yes.
I just wanted to say I'm very glad that you're in better health, and I'm a survivor at the same thing, and we're blessed to have you around.
Thank you. I'm blessed to have you on my program. Thank you, Lana, for calling. You take care. All right. Good night. Go to Doug. Uncle Doug, quickly. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Clyde. Sorry I didn't get to call you yesterday. Congratulations on your 20 years, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Mark, I got a quick question. How old are you?
I'm sorry, what?
How old are you?
I am 46.
Okay, I'm going on 62 here shortly.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you something, bud. I come from an old Navy family and a missile designer family. My dad worked in the missile industry as a designer on the Titan I, the Titan II, and the Minuteman.
Okay.
He was in the Navy for 22 years as an aviator. Okay. He logged himself over 30,000 hours in the air.
Sure.
And I had several discussions with him about the Earth being flat. And he looked at me and laughed and said, "Have you lost your damn mind?" Now I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with you on one point.
Yeah.
That the Earth might be wobbled. It might not be totally round. But me being a diesel engineer and a farmer, I do know one thing. When things go round and round, they become more spherical. Now, I understand we have mountains, and I understand we have ridges, and I'm not saying that the Earth is totally round. Mm-hmm. I sure as hell don't think that there's an edge somewhere. And I go along with the lady that called in earlier from Colorado. Where is the edge? Now, I do know one thing, Mark.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to have a polar shift if we're not already into the polar shift happening. And when that happens, you're going to see some really weird things happen. But how dare you, young man, how dare you, and I mean this wholeheartedly, fella, how dare you say that NASA or the military or the space program is bogus? You have no idea what you're talking about. And I don't know what your agenda is. Are you trying to do a screenplay or a movie or a book or something? But you need to back off on this thing being totally flat, because it's not totally flat.
Got it. Because the military would never lie to us ever in a million years about anything.
No. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on the government. I'm with you on the military. But where do you come up with this, man, that it's flat? I mean, I understand. You know why they're down there in Antarctica? They're guarding probably a alien space base.
Okay. That's not bad.
I'll go with you on that one wholeheartedly.
I dig part of it, sure.
Or up north, at the North Pole. I'll go with you wholeheartedly on that. But you need to get off your little high horse about the map being flat. I mean, when you order a map somewhere, hell, they don't send you a map with a bunch of bumps on it. They send you a flat map.
Well, Doug, I'm out of time.
Right, dude. I think you've been on the pipe too long, and I think you've got an agenda to write a book or something.
I haven't made a dime off this, man.
All right, Doug, you have a good night.
Well, you need not to, and you need to back off on it, because the world is not flat, Columbus.
That's it.
FM News 101 KXL.
You're listening to Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
So, Mark, I'm looking at my Facebook page. Everybody's saying I'm belittling people who think the Earth is round. Hell, I think the Earth is round. I just don't know.
Okay.
Damn you, you're a troublemaker.
I am a troublemaker. Ask the flat earthers, they'll tell you.
Damn pissed off, I tell you. No, let's go to Bill in Connecticut. Bill, you have at him.
Yes, hi, Clyde. Hi. The last caller was totally correct. Let me expand on the last caller. Let me expand on it. One of the first pictures, if not the first picture of the Earth from different areas as this particular satellite orbited the Earth was in 1962, Tyros, it was called. It was the first primitive weather satellite that lasted just for a short period of time in 1962. And then a few years later, from 1965 to 66, lunar orbiters 1 through 4, especially lunar orbiter 1, did take pictures in lunar orbit of the rising Earth, sort of similar to what Apollo 8 astronauts took in December 1968 with 16-millimeter film. These were electronic photographs. They were in black and white, not color, but they were actually very clear. And in fact, the last 2 years ago in 2013, NASA enhanced them with modern digital techniques to make them just as clear as modern photographs from modern spacecraft orbiting the moon of the Earth. As well as, I want to add, NASA's had since Project Gemini through Apollo and even to 2015 what it's called its Deep Space Network. What I mean by that is radio telescopes in 4 different areas of the Earth: Madrid, Spain, Canberra, Australia, and near the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Pasadena, California. And there's a fourth one, I forgot where it is. So that as the Earth revolves, and it is a globe, the Earth is a globe and it revolves, one of those 3 or 4 antennas will always be pointed at whatever space mission you talk about, like the New Horizons unmanned space probe that will fly by Pluto coming July 14th. And between May to July 14th and beyond July 14th to October, November, December, we'll get close-up photos and data from Pluto. So as the Earth revolves, and it's a globe, different radio telescopes will get the signal from the New Horizons spacecraft as it approaches Pluto, goes by Pluto, which is a globe itself, and the moon is a globe, we know that, and all the other planets. So the flat Earth position is totally insane and ridiculous, just as ridiculous and insane as religion, Christianity, and
Why did you have to say that? Why did you have to
throw that at the end?
I mean, did you really?
I'm an atheist, as you know.
There's a difference between an atheist and an ass clown, and that wasn't very nice. You don't say that about religion. Just be. Why can't you be an atheist with class?
Shut up wasn't very nice.
Why can't you be an atheist?
Shut up. That wasn't very nice.
Why can't you be an atheist with class? Why do you have to?
You told me to shut up the last time I called you. That wasn't very nice.
Did I tell you to shut up now?
No, but the last call you did.
Because you were being a douchebag. I couldn't handle it.
No, you just didn't agree with me. That's all. You didn't agree with me. You told me to shut up.
You're just annoying sometimes, and I have to be the policeman here. That's all. You weren't annoying tonight, so I love you, Bill. Have a good night, all right?
Because I give you scientific facts.
No, you slammed religion, you little... Ugh, God, you make me mad sometimes. You have a good night, I guess. Mark Sargent, thanks for the show. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, no, thank you, Clyde. I had a lot of fun.
I had fun, too. You have a great night, and watch out for those people that don't believe. We'll see you soon, okay?
I will look over my shoulder.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Right. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
Spinning complacently in the darkness, covered and blinded by a blanket of little lives, false security has lulled the madness of this world into a slumber. Wake up. An eye is upon you, staring straight down and keenly through, seeing all that you are and everything that you can never be. Yes, an eye is upon you, an eye ready to blink. So face forward, with arms wide open and mind reeling. Your future has arrived. Are you ready to go?
The loudspeakers spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeakers spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeakers spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers are called 988-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. You know, in the 20 years I've been doing Ground Zero, there's one thing that I've never had on my program, and that is a disclaimer. And, you know, the reason why I didn't have a disclaimer is because I trust my audience to understand just what is going on with the program here. Now, some people may think they know what's going on. They may think they know what I think about all the time. They may think they know how I am off the radio, on the radio. It doesn't matter. I mean, when I'm in your home and I'm speaking to you, when I'm in your ear and I'm speaking to you, how I am on the air and what I do on the air is how you see me and how you think I am. And you tend to think that beliefs are... some people tend to think that the beliefs that I have are the same beliefs as I have the people I put on the air. That's not so. It's not so at all. And I don't know where this idea has come from, that if a commentator brings someone on the air that he wants to know more about, that he most certainly believes it. No, that's not how it is. That's not how it is in radio. And I've had people say, I'm not listening to your show anymore because you're saying things I don't believe in. You know what? I don't give a damn. Because if I'm not saying things that you believe in, I don't care. Half the time I talk to people that I don't think that I personally think are not necessarily, you know, I don't believe what they say. But, you know, I have to listen to what they say, and I want to listen to what they say because I feel that their opinion is needed to be heard, and someone needs to say it. And somebody, and see, the thing is that the reason why I wanted to talk about Flat Earth tonight, a number of reasons. One, I think it's kind of April Foolish in a way. And another thing is that I find it interesting that there are a number of people that are now picking up on Flat Earth again and are saying that they believe it. Another 21st century faux pas, I suppose. And, you know, here's the deal. No disclaimer on the show, because I always think to myself that I hope people understand the conspiracy theory is not history. Sometimes it's not even fact, it's theory. Sometimes it appears negative. Sometimes it appears paranoid, but it's worthy of discussing. Negativity, when it comes with unintentional, but someone who is out there telling the story has to be heard. Sometimes there's disinformation in the story. You have to decide whether or not the person is telling the story or if he's right or he's wrong or whatever. Now, look, Mark Sargent, he believes in Flat Earth. He recently converted over to it. I am not a believer in Flat Earth. See people posting, so tonight Clyde's telling us that he believes the Earth's flat? No, I'm not. Did I say that the Earth's flat? No, I didn't. My guest did. I said that I was fascinated by the geoidal version of the Earth that they are showing right now. That's very interesting. The geoidal version makes the Earth look like some flattened basketball. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I tend to think that it's interesting and makes the Earth look more like its fellow planets, its fellow asteroids out there, bumpity and goofy and kind of round. Every time I talk about something, I think that it's a topic that is worthy of talking. It can be trivialized. It can be credible. It can be incredible. It can be incredulous and weird. And, you know, there's stuff that's always, there's more to the story. Don't you find it interesting that even someone today, in this day and age, actually believes that the world or the Earth is flat? That's the point. I don't believe it. You don't. You may not believe it. Maybe people out there do believe it. I bet there are people out there just like Mark who think that the world is flat or have always wondered if the world is flat, and maybe, just maybe, they need to find someone else who believes so they don't feel so scared or crazy in this world. Conspiracies, conspiracy theorists, all of this, the idea of actually entertaining an idea. Yeah, it's amusing sometimes. There's a possibility that someone's not joking, and yeah, we have to understand this. always been my philosophy that both science and religion are both wrong in some respects. Everyone agrees according to their own belief systems. And inconvenient data, well, we don't have to hear that. I don't believe it. But you know what? If you open your mind to it and you hear what somebody else has to say, maybe you'd understand why people believe the earth is flat. I want to know why people believe the earth is flat. I'm not going to take it for granted. That's stupid thinking. I want to find out why somebody thinks that. You know, if something is obviously, if the earth is obviously round, if planets are obviously spherical, and then somebody comes along and says, well, I don't think so. You know, you got to be kidding me. Why? I won't be offended, but I want to know why this guy doesn't believe. I don't want to sit here and just take it and go, okay, well, you know, he's obviously crazy. I want to know why he believes that stuff that I think is crazy. I want to understand. Because everyone has their own belief system they argue to stand for here. And most things you see anymore are explained away in some pre-digested soundbite that's often forgotten. And I'm saying that I need to also stress that I argue my beliefs sometimes as well. Sometimes I argue and play the devil's advocate for my own beliefs because this is how I do things. I report what is out there, and many times it compromises everything that I believe in because I want to find out what the other person believes. There's always this silly idea. Like, I remember the first time I interviewed Rex Church, who was a member of the Church of Satan. I interviewed him. Clyde condones Satanism. He's a Satanist. Or I interviewed somebody who was with Opus Dei. Clyde obviously is with the Jesuit Empire. I don't know what it is. But see, I'm not a closet Wiccan because I interview witches. I'm not a worshiper of Satan if I want to interview somebody who actually contacts demons on a Ouija board. It's not something that I do, but it's something that I want to know why someone would do it. Same reason why I want to know why men dress up as women and walk around like drag queens. I want to know why they do that. I don't find that something I want to do, but I certainly wonder why they want to do it. You see, in my line of work and what I do in the 20 years I've been on the air, I found that in my experience, we are now, all of us in this day and age, we are in this intermediate state of, we're between extremes, one extreme to the other. And everything that's between it is intermediate. We're kind of this intermediate breath that we take. And you can divide it up and break it up all you want. You can break it all down into an eternal state of extremes. You can realize that everything that you believed and read that is real. You can reject it all. But think about this, okay? Most everything that you believe at the moment is fashionable for a time. Sometimes it's the truth. Sometimes it's not the truth. And sometimes you can change it like you change a dirty shirt or a dirty pair of underwear, and you don't even think twice about it. I mean, what is reality anyway? I mean, can you question reality? If questioning makes a person paranoid, then I guess I'm going to wear my paranoid suit tonight and say, yes, I will question reality. This guy's questioning the reality of a planet being flat. I want to know why he did that. I want to know why he does it. I don't think the planet's flat. I kind of like this geoidal idea. I look at it all the time. I think, yeah, I think the planet would look more like a flattened wad of chewing gum. I like that idea. Kind of a fun, guilty pleasure to think about. But see, I know, and you know, that authority sometimes lies to you. I know, and you know, that they carefully want to control paranoia. They want to control the pain. They want to control the interest. They want to control the problem solution. They want to control the dialectic. And somewhere along the line, you're going to figure out what reality is. You're going to wake the hell up, and then you're going to go, oh, my gosh. Worst case scenario, do I have faith or do I have hope or do I just reject it all and just give up? Give up. That's the whole point. If a healthy sense of paranoia is bad for you, then why do some religious leaders encourage you with warnings of the end of the world? Because they want you to convert and stay strong. Hey, you don't want to end up burning with the other refuse when the rapture comes, right? They tell you to have faith, but then you throw it all away with paranoia and the clouds of paranoia that creep in every once in a while. And if it isn't enough that they give you a worst case scenario of like flesh falling off the bone, eyes falling out of the sockets, and the gnashing of teeth, they tell you to look forward to it because it will only happen to the wicked and not to the faithful. Are you looking forward to watching the wicked die? Hell, I have a tough enough time watching The Walking Dead, let alone watching the wicked get their eyes pulled out of their sockets by birds and everything else. That's what's in your Bible. That's what I read. I just think that it's time to just basically say to you, look, I find the world fascinating. I find opinions fascinating. I find beliefs others than my own to be fascinating. I find people who believe in such nonsense, if it be nonsense, fascinating. And I want so badly to talk to them and find out why the hell they believe the way they do, because that is what it's about at Ground Zero. It's not about me pushing an agenda or my belief system. And anyone who believes that, you don't know what I believe. I can tell you right now that people who listen to my program do not know what I believe, literally. And the reason why is because I have never shared all of my beliefs with you, because I don't even know if I can. I have been exposed to so many interesting things in my life that I can fill you with all kinds of great stories and things that have happened. And last night and tonight, as I said, we were discussing the granddaddy of all conspiracy theories, and that is flat Earth. I said, I never want to touch that because I know it's so insane. It's so silly. But Mark was he sounded so educated about it. He knew what he was talking about. He knew what he believed. And I think that's something that everyone who has a belief should have conviction of, regardless of whether or not it's silly or crazy or whatever. I'm not going to say, well, you're an idiot, if I'm going to have a guest on to find out more about what he believes. And he's certainly not coming in here and saying, I want you to believe like I do. He's not trying to convert you. I didn't hear him once say, I don't believe that the earth is round. I want you to follow me. He never did that. He just stated his belief system, which was controversial. And, it's funny. It's funny how it gets under people's skins, It's like, it's just interesting the way that happened. I mean, I know there are a lot of things out there that you're saying are more important to talk about, but I just felt like, hey, it's time to kind of unwind and talk about something that I've never touched in my life, and I'm better for it, that I know more about it now than I was before I sat down and decided to do this show tonight. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I mean it. I mean, it's like, no. I mean, what, you think I don't believe that the earth is round? I do believe the earth is round. Because the earth is round, it turns me on. No, I just think it's fascinating that some people don't believe it. They just don't. And I think it's interesting that people get so angry if their normal bias is being stepped on. You have to have a strong normalcy bias, and you better get a thick skin, because there are going to be people who are going to come along, they're going to have a lot more weird beliefs than just believing that the earth is flat. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Everyone is in on the secrets, and big things are being planned. Call Clyde Lewis now. Ground Zero.
Let's go to Alex in Houston. Alex in Houston. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Good.
How you doing, Clyde?
I'm okay.
Listening to Mark, I actually work. I'm on night maintenance at Johnson Space Center here.
Oh damn! We've been had. We're had. Hide the stuff. Hide it now. The NASA people have called. Hide it. Okay.
We were listening, catching clips as I was coming in and out a couple of buildings, and I just couldn't hold off anymore. I had to call.
You did. You called.
I'm about sure.
You're blowing the floor, Alex. You are blowing the floor. Go ahead.
Pretty sure the Earth is round. I do a lot of work in Building 8, which is the photo processing for anything that comes off the ISS and from the space shuttles, or the former space shuttles, and pretty sure the Earth is round. Although his point was well made. And wonderful argument, but we just couldn't hold off anymore from calling. It was too funny.
So, Alex, you got to do me a favor. You can send me some pictures. You're going to autograph them and stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
I will. Let me send you a couple. Some of the stuff we have access to, I'm just not going to talk about and can never talk about under contract. I'll go ahead and, in fact, I'll send you some live shots
Alex. I want you to say that sentence again, please. Say what you said before. You can't?
I cannot speak of, nor I'm under contract with the government, so I can't speak of certain things, and will never speak of certain things.
So is that what the aliens told you to say, Alex?
That is exactly what the aliens told me to say.
I knew it. You bastard. I knew it. Okay, so
but,
all right.
Tinfoil hats for everyone.
I just want the pics. That's all I want. Okay. I want you to send me some pics, and I'll put them up in my office, and that way there'll be no doubt. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I'll start sending them. I send them directly to the website, correct?
Yeah, you can send them to groundzeropdx@yahoo.com, and we will put them on my Facebook page so we can give you credit and say that Alex from Johnson Space Center sends us his regards and his wonderful spherical. Hey, well, now I got you on. Have you seen the geoidal mapping of the Earth? Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Doesn't that just make you feel rotten about the planet sometimes when you're looking at that? It looks like some flat football out in space. Huh?
Yeah, it does kind of look like squashed. Yeah,
it does, and that's why I did this show tonight, because I was just so into this geoidal mapping that Gosey's doing, and I was just thinking, now I got you on, I can talk to you about this. This is some pretty amazing stuff showing the Earth like this, but I'm sure people like Tyson and others are saying this is nonsense. But it's just remarkable to see, with all the mountains and the gravitational changes and everything that's been happening on the Earth, how the Earth would look if it was mapped that way. And I just think it's fascinating.
It is, although as far as rotation and gravitational issues, there might be a slight problem, including an atmosphere. But it is very interesting and a pretty cool layout.
It is a good layout. I think more and more people should look at these geoidal pictures. That's the only reason why I want to talk about flat Earth, was because of that. Because it just, when you look at something that, you're so used to the beautiful sphere that you at NASA have given us over the years, and then all of a sudden, you have one silly satellite that you guys are responsible for, mapping the planet in such a way that you're wondering, wait a minute, do I live on a wad of chewing gum? I just am curious. So Alex, I thank you for your time. And yes, I do want some pictures. Just send them to me via email.
Okay, sounds good. We will do that.
And send my regards to everybody at Johnson Space Center, okay?
All right, man. Thank you.
You bet. Take care. Bye-bye. I actually had a producer. I didn't even say, 20 years ago, I had a NASA engineer as a producer of my program. His name was Daniel Katzgatten. You can talk about him because he was a producer of this program at one time. We had NASA people actually producing Ground Zero one time. It was nice. And there's another secret, too, about the 20th anniversary. There was a time when Ground Zero was broadcast out of Area 51, but nobody knew. It was on a server at Area 51. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Did they believe that the Earth was flat, or did they believe that the Earth was spherical?
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy for feeling.
It would be a conspiracy. Thousands of people all over the world. Wouldn't it leak? Wouldn't some of those people be eager to talk about it? Wouldn't we in the media love to put it on the front page? Wouldn't it be a big headline?
Basically, the more people that have to be involved, the less likely it is to be true. The more components that have to come together, the more elements that all have to be coordinated just perfectly, the less likely it is to be true. I mean, if you just think about Watergate, I mean, here you have the most powerful administration in the world, and they couldn't even break into a hotel successfully. And in any case, people blabbed about it after.
The Flat Earth Society believes that the Earth is flat. And they also believe that the whole, all the information about how the planet is a sphere is made up by NASA. It's a NASA conspiracy. They're just trying to find ways to get more funding, more money. But in reality, the Earth is flat, and the rim is completely closed off by this massive ice wall, kind of like in the Game of Thrones.
or go for entry descent landing. Stand by. Stand by. We really don't know. First of all, we don't know how commonly life gets kickstarted. And secondly, we don't know how commonly it evolves into intelligent life. History proves that we have never lost by pressing the limits of our frontier.
We have everything we have today because of our predecessors who had the courage to leave the world that we know and go out to the wilderness and build new cities. And if we stop being people like that, then we will hand down much less to our posterity than our ancestors handed down to us.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and you are listening to Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. Flat Earth or no Flat Earth, 888-673-3700. You know, and also the idea that we're a flat Earth sphere on a turtle going through space, that's the original idea. So even if you believe in the turtle thing, I want to hear why you think that way. I really do. You know, here's the deal. You think about this whole flat Earth thing, and you think to yourself, okay, yeah, this isn't real. I want to talk to somebody now. This is going to be hard to find. I remember when I wanted to go on the, oh my gosh, I wanted to go on the excursion when they were going to take the cutter, the ice cutter, and they were going to find Hollow Earth. And the reason why I wanted to go on that expedition is because I wanted to say that I traveled to the top of the world and came over the other side. Okay? Now, I had a guy on my Facebook page tell me that he sailed the whole planet being in the military. So I want to know what it felt like to have his boat go down all the way to the south and go through Antarctica and come up the other side. I don't think he did that. Did he do that? Maybe he did. I don't know. He said, "Oh, I've done that. I've gone around the world." Did he really go around the world, or does he just say that meaning that he went as far south as he could before he ran into Antarctica and did not know if he fell off the side of the planet? I mean, think about it. How many people have said that they could go all the way around the planet, North Pole, over the North Pole, over to the other side, and what is on the other side when you get over the North Pole? What channels do you have to go through? What areas of the water, change? What continents do you run into? What's the antipodal? I hate that word. Antipodal. What's the antipodal, baby? Antipodals are crazy. I can't even believe the antipodals exist because of the fact that if you dig through China, you end up, hell, you don't even end up anywhere north in the United States. You end up in like Tonga or something. I don't know how that happens. Anyway. But yeah, I want to talk to somebody who's actually went around the world completely in a plane or in a shuttle or something. I mean, we got NASA calling tonight, so maybe some guys in NASA, maybe an astronaut will call and tell me how it feels. I know that Jake Garn did it. He was a senator from Utah. He was on the shuttle. And who else went up? Buzz Aldrin, did he go up again on the shuttle? He didn't go up on the shuttle. It was the other guy, Shepard. No, was it Shepard? Somebody went up on the shuttle again, and, it's I guess, the shuttle, you have 2 daytimes because you go around here so damn fast. So there you go. I don't know. It's just interesting when you're in that kind of position where you can say, yep, went around the earth 3 or 4 times. That means I've aged 2 or 3 times more since I've gone around the earth like the sun. I sped up the purpose. 888-673-3700. Let's go to Navarez in Texas. Hi, Navarez, on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. To all Christians, I got to just say one thing. What man can say, go here and go no further to the other person? So for one man's belief on a flat earth, how much can we judge on, mapping out a molehill when everyone else is looking at a mountain?
Well, I mean, and here's another thing, too. What about quantum physics? What about quantum universes? Everybody has no problem believing in quantum universes, But have they ever seen one? Have they ever experienced one? Would they be willing to take the chance at blowing their brains out in hopes that they could go to another quantum dimension before their brains get blown out? That, the whole quantum suicide theory.
Have we been able to even realize that maybe our entire galaxy can float through through a black hole? Our entire galaxy floating through a black hole, and we wouldn't even notice it. The furthest that we can actually ever notice is maybe Pluto, and even then we're downgrading it to a freaking, a moon now?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I would agree with Alex that there are certain things that people cannot be told because it's so hard to accept. And I would also agree with Michael is that, at this point in time that we're living on a liquid marble in the middle of a decompression space, rotating around, God knows what that sun is, like helium and all that other good jazz. Is that how far would we know if our world was compressed? I mean, our moon rotates our tides, so how far would the galaxy, be able to compress us? And would we even be able to notice it at the time? The only thing that we have is pictures from a handful of people outside of our own stratosphere saying, hey, look, this is the pictures that we took at the time, and this is what it looks to us. So our best guess is this what it is right here. So my thing is that everyone needs to keep an open mind to it. And like you were just saying, is that it's a possibility for any direction that we go.
It's just interesting to try and fathom, and no one really can fathom the idea of like our skyscrapers all going sideways as we're stuck on the planet, and then everything kind of levels off because of our perception. The way our perception is that we're on the planet, and everything's cool, and everything's flat underneath us, when in reality, we're climbing up a wall that we're glued to because of gravity. It's just amazing.
Well, also, you can notice a difference between 45-degree angle and a 90-degree angle. It's practically in our, in our own mindset.
Yeah.
We can notice the difference between those two. Well, on a larger scale, would we be able to notice, our world turning an oval shape or
Right.
any of that such
Right.
in a different angle? Just because they took a picture and it looks round, it doesn't mean that it's, like a...
Well, and all these pictures that you see of you're right, half the pictures that you see from I don't know, not deep space, but above, where you see the curvature of the horizon, that is the curvature of the horizon. That does not necessarily mean that the Earth is round. It means that that's just how the horizon looks.
Exactly.
It's the vanishing point. It goes into a curvature rather than in a straight line or a flat line or whatever. And so I'm not sticking up for the flat Earth, because I believe that we're a round sphere planet, or at least a geoid planet. And being a geoid planet means that no, not everything is going to look perfectly round or perfectly spherical. We do not live in a perfectly spherical world. We just don't. I'm not saying we're flat, but I am saying that we may have to reevaluate how we look and how our maps are pointed out to us, and how we've been brainwashed into thinking that certain continents are certain sizes and they're not certain sizes. It's just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that it all comes down to what you want to believe at first, and then what is the proof that can be expelled from the non-proof.
Well, and what are you willing to entertain, at least for a while, to kind of have some mind expansion? And then when you go to bed at night, you know that the Earth is round. You know that the moon is round. You know that your life is your bodies are being held here by gravity. I mean, there are a number of things that, of course, are givens you were taught that are part of your normalcy bias. But if somebody steps on your normalcy bias, does that give you reason to be angry and irritated? I don't think so.
Well, what is the most efficient structure in the known universe? It's 360 degrees. So at the very least is that we have a round surface that is controlled by another round surface, our moon and our sun and such like that. So everything is, at the very basics, it's round. But now when it comes to 360 degrees by 360 degrees, that's all up to space. I mean, and no one can control space anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting, at least, to spark some controversy and to spark some conversation. So, Navarez, thank you for the call. I appreciate that.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah, it's it's the idea that what if everything that we know about the universe is wrong? What if scientists for so long have kept their lock and key on everything, and you think, well, everything they say has got to be correct? It's got to be correct. It can't be anything else. It's outrageous to think that the Earth is flat. But okay, so if that's outrageous to think that the Earth is flat, some other outrageous things that we could probably contest as well, like maybe an atmosphere on the moon, or perhaps water in space, or life out in space, or I mean, there's so many things that we could just, jump off of one outrageous idea to another. You know what that is? That's the beginnings of science. Questioning and observing and discovering. Having hypothesis and theory. And learning from all the hypotheticals. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL. This is Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Hey, I got to remind everybody about something very important that's coming up. Saturday, I'm going to be on the computer most of the day. Why? Well, we have this new technology we're trying out called Google Hangouts. Some of the listeners have already been a part of these face-to-faces. They've just been kind of like spur of the moment. I say, hey, guys, I'm going to go out and try the face-to-face technology. You want to come on and talk? Sure. Come on and talk with me. But see, we're going to organize more face-to-face get-togethers with some very well-known people that are affiliated with Ground Zero. Some guests that you'd probably want to be on with to talk directly to them, so you can ask them anything. Other people that would be more than happy to tell you about what they're doing. This weekend, around noon, I will be on the face-to-face show, which will be on the internet. All you got to do is just go to the Facebook page. There you'll be finding the URL where you can click on it, and you will be there face-to-face with me, Clyde Lewis, at the face-to-face get-together. Also, Robert Hollis will be there, multimillionaire, to tell you more about entrepreneurial programs that he's involved with that got him to where he is today. The man's amazing. I love him. He's a good friend. And he was one of the guys that came up with this idea. He says, hey, Clyde, you need to do this. Get face-to-face with your listeners. Let them know you're there. And it's good to get to know them. And it has been. It's been really fun getting to know each and every one of you, those who participate in face-to-face. That's noon this Saturday, face-to-face with Clyde Lewis. Robert Hollis will be there, and hopefully want to get some special guests to come in and say hello as well as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Ground Zero. Let's go to Matt in Florida. Hi, Matt. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, just wanted to, thank you, earlier for what you were saying. It's always, I think, an awesome thing to get into different subjects, that are, questionable, or at least make you think about reality and question your reality. You know? Mm-hmm. The flat Earth thing is awesome.
What's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's interesting is, you've had a lot of guests on too, like Jinx Dawson and others, where it's just, a lot of really just interesting ideas and things. And with I've actually kind of been researching the flat Earth thing for a little while, just because it's been the most recent thing I've been kind of, it's caught my eye and stuff. And what I find interesting, that Sargent kind of lays out is just, some of the things like about the flights in the southern hemisphere, how GPS stops tracking them once they go over water, and not in the northern hemisphere. And I thought that was interesting. And one thing that's always bothered me is, whenever you see those videos of altitude balloons that have the cameras attached, and they go up, they're always what do they call them? Wide-angle lenses. And it's kind of strange because it gives a natural curve to what you're looking at. And they kind of did that with the Red Bull skydive whenever they did that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And it's interesting, because it's just like, why is it every video of trying to view the Earth like from that high altitude has a wide angle lens? Interesting. And the flat Earth stuff kind of piqued my interest there too. But anyway, it's just really interesting stuff. And I agree too. There's no reason to get upset about stuff that questions your reality and everything, because everything that we get information-wise is reliant on at least one other person. And, and if not your own perception and what it can actually see and see what is true.
Well, it just surprises me. It just surprises me, and a lot of people will tune out to foreign ideas or ideas that they don't even want to. They are afraid to entertain because they're afraid it may influence them in such a way that it would ruin their lives or whatever. If you have a strong opinion about something, chances are entertaining an idea that's outside your perimeter or outside your way of thinking is an interesting way of understanding more of other people and what they believe. Rather than being so critical of them, you should be open to them and try to understand where they're coming from and why they believe what they believe, rather than ridiculing it and trying to destroy it, trying to convince them that they're wrong. I've learned that that doesn't work a lot. Try to convince them that they're wrong about something, because they're going to believe whether you tell them they're wrong or not. And same with people call me and they tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to say, well, I believe unless you can show me otherwise. If you can convince me otherwise, that's great.
Yeah. Well, there's subjects out there too, like in the conspiracy, world market, I guess you could call it, that are just things that you can almost not even really bring up at all,
right?
Without fear of, one of them, if you ever want to really piss people off, get Ernst Zundel, to somehow talk on your show.
Of course. Well, Ernst Zundel went to jail for his thoughts and his thought crime. That's what he went to, because he's he's kind of a unrepentant Nazi. I mean, I've had Tom Metzger on my show before, another unrepentant Nazi, which I've had. And believe me, their views are scary. That doesn't mean I support them. It just means they're interesting to hear. Hey, Matt, thanks for the call. Yeah, it's I had Tom Metzger on my show once. That was really kind of an interesting time. He's another, like Ernst Zundel, kind of a scary guy, but I talked with him because I wanted to just know what he believed, rather than assuming. You don't want to always assume. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Let me be clear. As a citizen and as president, Ground Zero is indeed essential on radio and is essential to who we are.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. From the flat earth theories presented by my guest tonight to the fluid earth. It had exactly the gravity field of Earth, a surface that we could see, roughly the sea level surface, dynamic effects such as waves, tides, all of those things had to be excluded, but topography, the geoid and what it means, the model for Earth, the planet's size and shape that is controversial. Coincides with mean sea level over oceans, and you see the drops and the kicks and the heights because of Everest and other things. Geoidal Earth is interesting because I first got a glimpse of it when I was investigating whether or not there was any kind of seismic activity going on in the Alps. Apparently so, as they had yesterday had an avalanche that killed 3 people. And so you're looking at the electrical side of the Earth, the mountainous side of the Earth, the rotation, shape, and gravity of the Earth. References that you can go to. And no, you don't have to think of the Earth as a planet that is flat. You see the ellipsoid, it best fits however you feel. When you look at a geoid version, it's just calculated to show the differences of the planet and how the continents have to lay in certain directions, why there are gravity anomalies and differences between observed and predicted gravity, why we have earthquakes, why earthquakes will actually start up. We'll see the differences in the powers happening if CERN starts up and we see more earthquakes, more volcanoes, more gravitic types of waves happening, as we said in the beginning. You know, I'm fascinated by this because I think the Earth needs to prepare for such things. I mean, when you look around you, you'll see that the Ring of Fire fires up right on cue. Earthquakes happen right on cue. They used to say you can't predict them. But, you know, when you're looking at data from around the Earth, in different way the Earth is being shown, you know, flat Earth is just the beginning. But when you're looking at other geophysical or other main sites and places to explore, you learn more about how this Earth is far more complicated than it seems. And then when we look at it, it isn't the same. You're looking at topographic surfaces, textured surfaces, geoid shape. And I just find the geoid shape to be far more fascinating. It's a halfway point for those who want to see a definition of how the Earth should look, and too extreme for the idea of going to the idea of flat Earth, which I only did because I wanted to hear someone talk about flat Earth. I can't grasp it, but let's just say I can grasp lumpy Earth. The idea of new gravity and new types of mapping can give me lumpy Earth. I don't feel so bad about lumpy Earth. I don't feel so bad about mangled lump of Play-Doh Earth. I mean, if you look at the gravity maps from GOSI, you can see that, you know, you can see that while we think that the Earth is some relatively smooth orb, but when you have matter, even that's not evenly distributed across the planet's surface and bodies of water and all kinds of other dips and channels, you start seeing its real physical appearance. The geoid shows the shape that mean sea level would have if it was somehow extended over the entire surface of the globe. So when you see that, you're like going, whoa, you know, the Earth is not as round as we thought it was. Certainly not flat, but it's certainly not the roundest thing out there. That's why gravity maps are so important to oceanographers, because they'll be able to see wind currents and they can see how water does pile up and how they can avoid dying or getting into any accident. And I know, you know, it's just a snapshot, and for some it may be a crapshoot, but I can tell you now, it's just fascinating to know that the Earth is changing and that we have all kinds of strange things happening and people having these strange or these wonderful theories about what's going on out in space. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We go now to Dave in Portland. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde.
Hey.
I was wondering, so with the flat Earth and all, how thick the crust is versus if it was, I believe it's spherical, the Earth is, but with those who do think of the flat Earth, how thick is our depth of the crust? Per se.
Well, the question is how far can you dig down before you find the hole that leads you to space if you have a flat Earth? I mean, that's the thing, is it right?
Yeah.
The flat Earth has to sit in a bed of something with the dome over it. So we don't know how high we can go unless you're looking at the Van Allen belt and you're looking at the magnetosphere. So we can go that high, I guess. But digging into the Earth and seeing how far we can go before we fall through space, I doubt that can even happen. And see, that's the thing, is that there are tests that have to be done to prove flat Earth. The only thing is that flat Earth is a convenient way of expanding the mind into areas that may sound ludicrous, but, you know, they're fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And then also, I do believe, way back when all the continents, I don't know if Antarctica and the Arctic were all together, but
Pangea, yeah.
Having all the continents all together, that way you probably didn't need, having that sphere. It doesn't seem like you were saying just a moment ago, that Earth isn't that big, per se.
Well, back then, I would say that, I would say that there's a lot to be said about the Earth being smaller thousands of years ago. And also, as Velikovsky had said, that the planets were closer. That our skies that we looked into in the past were far more alien than they are today. And that's one of the reasons why we called certain planets gods, because they rumbled and they talked to each other. They sent arms of energy towards each other, lightning bolts firing from the skies, even firing from the planets as they got close to the Earth. These are the types of things that made the people of Earth realize that there were powerful entities that lived in space, or powerful entities that would send down messages from the gods telling them they need to do this, need to do that. So, if religions are founded on powerful situations from powers that could not be explained, then, of course, God did move in mysterious ways, and far more mysterious and far more compelling ways than he does now.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I wanted to check with you on, like, how thick that crust was and all.
I don't know.
Thank you.
It'd be interesting to see. I mean, that'd mean that probably there's no core. That wouldn't make any sense. Now, I don't know. I didn't even ask about a core of the Earth if we had one in flat Earth. Because, the thing is the idea is so foreign to me. I had no idea how to answer the question. I would ask a question and whatever would come into my mind, and, we only have 2 hours to get them out there. And see, that's the thing, is that with people who called the program and told the guy he was crazy, that was time for people to ask questions as to whether or not they believe there's a core in the flat Earth, whether or not the core is there, and how does the core operate and function in a flat Earth situation. It doesn't sit and rotate under the planet like we believe with the round planet. What would it do? It just sit there flat? Do absolutely nothing? Or is there a reason why we have this core? Is it a flat core underneath the planet that kind of causes Earth? That's it. Proving the existence of not flat Earth but round Earth based on the core and based on how the Earth's geoid creates volcanoes, bumps, mountains, topography, things of that nature. That's why I find the geoid Earth fascinating. It's a different way of looking at Earth, but it's not unscientific. I keep that in mind. When I'm talking about the geoid Earth, it's not anti-science. It's something that is a part of science that's being looked at. It's a branch of science that's being looked at, so they can see the topography, the waves, the tides, everything with the planet. It's an interesting way of looking at the Earth. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We're going to take a break. Hey, once again, I want to remind everybody, Saturday, I'm going to be online with all of you, face-to-face with Clyde Lewis. Robert Hollis will be there, and maybe a mystery guy. I'm going to call him tomorrow, see if he wants to come on and be with you guys, because it'll be a lot of fun to have him on. But yeah, do face-to-face online with me this Saturday. We're going to be on Google Hangouts. Try out the new technology and get you involved with projects. It'll make you money. That's how you do it. And you do it like that right here on Ground Zero. Just go face-to-face with Ground Zero. It's going to be on Google Hangouts. It's brought to you by Successful Women in America and Entrepreneurs of America. It's going to be good. You're going to really like it. 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Let's go to Sean in Portland, Oregon. Hi, Sean. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, good evening, Clyde. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say that I want to tell you about how I believe I saw the moon get crunched like bubble gum in front of my own eyes when I was a kid. But before I tell you the story, I just want to say I love your show. What you do is great. And what I really love about it is the callers. You have so many interesting and actually informed and interesting callers. It's a revelation most of the time I listen to it. So I love it, and it's because of your callers.
It's a gathering of the most remarkable people I have ever experienced in the history of my show. I've gone from the young people to those who believe almost anything, to those who are very critical, to those who are remarkably smart and understanding. And I think that if they know that this is a place where they can discuss these things, these open-minded discussions and things of that nature, I think we can only see the audience grow to a point where we are unstoppable, where our knowledge and our ability to converse and our ability to understand each other would be phenomenal if we just applied it. And that's what I believe in.
how we fuse this nation together, just getting this diversity together, learning how to argue it without being personal, learning how to do it without going to blows.
Right. It's hard, but we're trying. We're trying. That's great. Yes.
Let's be less personal about our attacks.
Right. I mean, everybody takes things personally. Why would you take something personally? I mean, if someone attacks you personally, that's one thing. But if they're just stating their opinion, there's no reason to get personal with them. There's no reason to, like I say, normalcy bias when it gets stepped on can be really ugly if people don't know how to handle it. Some people don't.
Well, like you said, thank you for bringing up the quantum stuff because I'm dabbling in it, and that is a perfect example. Like, it seems I didn't get to catch the whole show, and I got to admit I'm a little bit ignorant to the flat Earth stuff and whatnot, but it's my knee-jerk reaction. Of course, my analytical mind still is going like, "Oh, come on, this is impossible." And sure, but that's the scientific method, is allowing people to put stuff out onto and allow us to digest. How about this one, Clyde? I know you know your sci-fi, but before Philip K. Dick, there was Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
I think I've heard. Did he do Rama?
No, Rama was. Oh my gosh, Rendezvous with Rama with Arthur Clarke.
Oh, that was Clark. Okay. What if our whole solar system is a craft?
Well, see, that's the point. One of the things about Rama is such a fascinating story is that, the huge spacecraft that had these aliens on it. First of all, the spacecraft, the biggest hilarious part about Rama is we saw the spacecraft. Everybody on the planet saw the spacecraft heading towards the sun. But there was one thing that we didn't like about it. The spacecraft didn't want to have anything to do with us. It was too big and immense. It didn't care about us, and it pissed us off so much that we had to go up to the ship, find out who was running the ship, and when we found out who was running the ship, we realized, oh, that's why they don't care about us. But see, that's the whole point. Why is it that every time a ship goes by, we have to think that these aliens or whatever they might be give a hell or give a damn about us at all? That's the question.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Let me briefly the story of the moon. I was in Hawaii. There's a observatory at the top of Mauna Kea, and I was a kid. It was in the 80s. It's probably 83, 84. So it was a long time ago. But so I'm watching the sunrise from the top of this volcano. I'm watching the shadow of the volcano cast at sunset. At the peak of this shadow is the moon setting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm alert. I'm at the peak. I'm prepubescent. Everything is owned. There's no drugs. There's nothing. Everything's alive. I'm watching the moon dissolve. It right when it got to the setting point, it didn't set. And I'll never forget it. I was like, at the time, I'm a rational guy. I got the physics and calculus and whatnot in college. So, so I rationalized. Of course, the atmosphere is distorted like a glass lens.
Mm-hmm.
That usually makes things bigger. I saw the moon slowly in chunks. Like, imagine a slow motion chewing up of the moon by the teeth of some kind of invisible mouth. Literally, the moon shrank and shriveled in pieces and chunks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying. Sure, it could have been clouds, distortion, of course, but that's quite possible, and that's all we attribute it. But thank you for your shows because it allows me to go well, now wait a minute, maybe something else was going on.
Yeah, you always think that when you see something anomalous. I always say, don't identify it just yet. Let it sink in for a minute before you think that it's something too outrageous to report. Because that's the trouble is people, when they see things, they immediately want to draw conclusions. Just let it settle for a while, and then let the conclusion speak for itself. And it will most certainly surprise you in the end, that's for sure.
Don't forget about your intuition. It's vital.
That's right. Intuition is very important.
Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you. Bye-bye. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I can't stress enough how I want you guys to show up to this face-to-face thing. And the reason why is because it's just something that I've experienced, and it's like having you guys all in my house. Like I'm inviting you out to my home, or you're inviting me to your home. I don't know what it's like to have me on the other side of the screen, but to have you on the other side of the screen talking to me, especially when you're calling from places like Scotland, or you're calling from places like England, or you're calling from places like New Zealand, that happens. We've been having some test runs. Molly and me have been having these test runs. Molly's the coordinator of this wonderful show. She's with Successful Women in America. She is actually putting together the gathering, and she's going to be the moderator for the gathering on Saturday. It's called Face to Face with Clyde Lewis. It's free. All you got to do is just watch the Facebook page for when the URL goes up. It'll be around noon, and then we'll do a show for you. It'll be about 2 hours, 3-hour show, and, of course, some special guests. You'll be able to ask me anything. My guest, Robert Hollis, you'll be able to ask him anything about what it's like to make money in a world that is hard on you for making money. And, of course, I'm going to have, hopefully, a special guest to say hello to all of you. I'm going to see if he can come on and be with us. I keep saying that. I got to give him a call tomorrow to make sure I can secure him for Saturday. But it's Saturday at noon. It's called Face to Face with Clyde Lewis. Be watching the Facebook page. If you haven't liked our Facebook page yet, you should like the Facebook page. That way you'll get the information that's out there about this wonderful event that we're calling Face to Face with Clyde Lewis, happening at noon this Saturday, April 4th. Check us out. More to come from Ground Zero. Don't go away.
With Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
They all laugh at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. They all laugh when Edison recorded sound.
In 2003, researchers did the measurements and found that Kansas is, in fact, literally flatter than a pancake.
Suck on it, Trebek.
The grid.
When we use our brains for 1 minute, we know that mankind has been deceived by false science using crazy mathematics. Contrary to the public knowledge, heliocentrism is still based entirely on assumptions.
The earth is moving, but I can't feel the ground. Who's got
Right? Wrong.
It must be assumed that the sun is stationary. It must be assumed that the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. It must be assumed that the Earth is orbiting the Sun annually at a speed of 67,000 miles per hour. It must be assumed that the Earth is tilted on an axis of 23.5 degrees. It must be assumed that the stars do not move around the Earth, as they have been observed to do by everyone who has ever lived in all of history. It must be assumed that the reason the Earth's diametric orbit of 300 million kilometers does not produce any noticeable stellar parallax is because the stars are too many trillions of miles away.
the earth is moving, but I can't feel the ground. Who's got the last laugh now?
I'm Clyde Lewis. This is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Let's go to Howard in Vancouver. Hi, Howard. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Good evening, Clyde.
Hey.
I've been listening to your conversation about the flat Earth tonight, and it brought to mind just how little the human race has actually changed in the last 1,000 years. Had we been around 1,000 years ago, we would have probably thought the Earth was flat too. You know, it looked flat. There was no reason to think otherwise, and we didn't have the fundamental knowledge of celestial mechanics or anything of this nature. Then a few centuries later, Galileo came along and figured out that the Earth was orbiting around the sun and tried to point this out, and he was held up as a heretic. And when the He tried to get the clergymen at the time to look through the telescope. They refused because they considered that works of the devil. And I've always suspected that they actually knew he was onto something, but they also knew that this was something that was going to undercut their authority. And in that sense, I think that the same thing is going on today. We have thousands of people who have experienced paranormal things. You know, we've seen UFOs. You know, we have people that have experienced poltergeist and things of this nature. And they know perfectly well that there is something well beyond our present understanding, something very fundamental, you know, that we're missing, just like the people, you know, in the Middle Ages were missing something very fundamental. The curious thing is exactly the same thing is happening. The same people, the high priests of science, are refusing to look through the telescope, and they're not going to inform us about it. And that's kind of where we stand right now. I just thought that was my observation. I just thought I'd bring that out.
Yeah, I would. I would agree. There are a lot of things going on that you know, you weigh the science against the theory, and sometimes science wins out. Sometimes the theories are so intriguing that they're compelling, and they keep us glued to either the internet or books or maybe even radio shows. And that's what I like about the world. Is there's some things I don't know about, some belief systems I don't know about. Want to hear why they believe in such things. And that's why sometimes I do shows that I do, is because I think a lot of people want to know why or how somebody can believe in anything like that. So, yeah, it's kind of fun to kind of hear what people have to say about their belief systems and what it is they stand forward for.
But the curious thing is what I wanted to point out is that the purpose for sitting on this information is exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago. It hasn't changed. It's still about the authority.
Yeah, question authority whenever you can. And I think see, that's the thing, is that anymore, we were a very healthy, I think we were a healthier country when we questioned authority. I think we're a healthier country when we challenged science, when we challenged authority. Now we have authoritarians telling us what to think, what to believe, and people are so into, or they're so, I guess you could say, willing to believe or otherwise mimic or parrot what is being said by what appear to be authority figures. They don't take the time to understand or even think about what it is they're believing or at least supporting.
Yes, it's that we've got something going on in our reality, something that very very fundamental that we're missing.
Yes.
And we've been striving to find out what that is, you know, through all sorts of different venues, and that is kind of my point, you know, right now. I think that we need to just keep pursuing that, and that's about all I got to say.
Well, thank you, Howard. I really appreciate what you had to say tonight. Thank you so much. Let's go to Trent in Newberg, Oregon. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey there, Clyde.
Hey, what's up, man?
Well, you started talking about this subject tonight. I'm not sure exactly what I missed, but I missed the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be talking about the flat Earth, you got to talk about Byrd Wall.
Well, we were talking about Byrd, and we were talking about the expedition, talked about high jump. Yeah. We talked about a few things like that. We didn't go into much detail of them because, see, I was not aware that Byrd had theories on flat Earth. Were you aware of that? I mean, Sargent brought that out, but I wasn't sure.
I'm not aware of any specific theories that he may have had himself.
Yeah.
But I do know of an interview he was on TV.
Okay.
Where he talked about Antarctica and how there was a landmass bigger than the United States.
Okay.
And the natural resources were going to be coveted by every country in the world, and that was like the last expedition to Antarctica.
You know, that's the thing, is that whenever or if ever we can tap into the resources of Antarctica, I'm sure we're going to be very surprised at what we find. We do know that it certainly is a place where many things from space end up. They land there, they wind up there for some reason. A lot of rich, I'm sure, soils and ores that are there. I mean, I don't know why all this time we have neglected Antarctica. Maybe...
Yeah, it was Bert Wall on the TV, on the interview. He was talking about uranium.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, back then it was a big deal, uranium.
Yeah.
And other natural resources. But this, they talk about something in the Bible called the firmament.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you were asking earlier about how thick the earth would have to be to... I don't know, the core argument.
Right. I mean, if we have a flat Earth, how does the core operate? I mean, it can't be dangling from a flat Earth. It has to be encased in something. At least that's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I'm not, there's a great exercise in critical thinking. I'm not I'm not going either way here.
Sometimes critical thinking get in the way of expanding and thinking. And see, that's where there's so many different, I guess, roadblocks that come with this flat Earth thing. Like I said, the geoid Earth, when you get, I want people to take a look at the geoid Earth. If you get a chance, Trent, you get online, look up geoid Earth, Geoid Earth. You will be fascinated about how that looks. It's kind of, I don't know, it's disappointing, it's underwhelming and overwhelming all at the same time. And that's why I thought, talk to the flat earthers, see what they say about this.
If we're on a globe that's made of liquid, spinning, it's got to have some, some thickness in the middle, a little more than maybe at the top or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest reason why this flat Earth thing is coming to light right now, or is a big topic, is because people are questioning everything. They're questioning, the government. This ties into the government too. What's the other object that is in every classroom beside the flag?
The globe.
A globe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're right. And the globe reinforces the idea the world is round instead of flat.
No questions even needed, No. You don't even have to ask. It's just right there.
As I said before, the normalcy bias is that the world is round. All of the maps show the world is flat, but we tend to go towards it because of something that happened in 1965 through 1969, and that is man allegedly left this sphere to land on another sphere to snap pictures of the Earth. Now, are those the real pictures? Are those composites?
Yeah.
That's the question we ask.
Are they Photoshop?
Yeah, are they Photoshop? Yeah. Are they fake? I don't know. Trent, thank you for calling, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good night, buddy. Take care. Yeah, are they Photoshop? Fake. No. I don't know. It just challenges, your normalcy bias. And we have normalcy bias that says, yes, the Earth is not flat. Or no, the Earth is not flat. It's round, rotund. Like I said, the geoid Earth makes you wonder even more about how the Earth is supposed to look. So look up geoid Earth tonight when you get an opportunity. You'll find it very fascinating. In fact, on my article tonight on my website, you'll see that I colored up a geoidal look at the Earth, and it's amazing. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Let's go to Mallory in Oregon. Hi, Mallory. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm calling because I want to touch base on a lot of the talk about the core, how the core works, and what shape the Earth is. And I have a lot of theories, but my main theory is about why can't we go to the North Pole? Like, why can't commercial airlines fly over the North Pole? Why is the general public denied access to certain places on the Earth? Well, that's when my theory comes in about with quantum physics and mechanics of higher, different dimensions. and higher dimensions in this planet. You know, possibly a theory could be that our Earth's core is in a different dimension. Our moons go into different dimensions. Somebody mentioned earlier from Portland that he saw the moon kind of crunch out of nowhere. And I believe that there are people who have a higher perception who can see it, but there's only so many people who can. And I feel that, like, people who work for, like, secret organizations and government officials, they have this access, and it's secret because they have that higher perception, and, you know, they want to kind of protect it away from just kind of chaos, because if the whole world found out that there's different dimensions, that's kind of crazy. Like,
well, you know, that's what they're doing at CERN right now. They're trying to discover them. They're trying to put them together, and, you know, who knows? They may just open one up, and if they do, what then? What are we going to do then? How are we going to understand, and what are we going to do when we find out there are other dimensions, and the dimensions aren't exactly the way we thought they were?
Exactly. And I believe, you know, that Earth, there is, in my opinion and my theories, a possible several dimensions, and I believe that the North Pole and above the Arctic, there is possibly one that goes hollow straight through Earth, where the hollow Earth theory comes in, that Earth is hollow, and where's the core? Well, the core is there, but it's just trapped in another dimension. And we can't perceive that because we are in our dimension, and we perceive what the human eye perceives. So,
well, we have to make sure that if we're making these decisions to do these quantum leaps, that we have backup and ideas and plans just in case we create a paradox. Because if we create a paradox, we're all dead. We're gone. It's toast.
Right.
See?
Exactly. And that's why it raises a question to me: why can't we go certain areas, and why has it been kind of erased off certain maps around the world? And and it's avoided.
Yeah, I traveled to South America, and I thought it was weird that the way I went, you had to pass through like San Francisco and then Lima, Peru to get down to Buenos Aires. I'm thinking, why can't I just fly straight to Buenos Aires? There's something strange about the South Pole. I don't know what it is.
Exactly, and it could be something strange in a scientifical, universal way, or it could just be, money-wise, they want to take you other places to make more money from you. You never know. There's so many things you could explore, and why you'd have to take so many different routes to get to one place. There's endless possibilities.
That's true.
Infinite universe, and we only know so much about so little, so to say.
I'm glad you think that way, because that's the biggest difficulty I have is when you try to tell people, look, open your mind to the infinite universe. Don't be so finite, because finite ideas are not made for an infinite universe, an infinite planet with all kinds of infinite possibilities. And it just seems to me that we tend to forfeit the craziest ones of all when they just might be the ones that are true. Good night.